Welcome, Pokemon trainers, to the Pokemon Go special event in Turin. My name is Koning Lionheart, and I'm joined by Count Xevious, Landberger, and of course, Inadequence. This event is not the only event that is happening this weekend. We also have tournaments in Milwaukee and Santiago. So we are going to focus on Turin, of course, because we are here in Italy. Amanda, how have you liked the country?
I absolutely love Italy. I think it's one of the best countries, and what a way to end the European season, right? I mean, we're here, we have a lot of players who have come to this special event, and I'm really excited to see how they're going to turn out.
We saw some cool camera shots earlier. I think it's a really cool city. Temperature is pretty warm though. I'm having a great time here. I'm also really grateful for the work of the tournament organizers who put in a lot of work. The venue is looking great. I'm really looking forward to not only the battles but all the players that we have here in Italy today.
Yes, so far it has been really amazing. The organization was on fleek. And let's go for a little bit of a blast of a past so far. So just 2 weeks ago, we have had the tournament in Malmö. Of course, we can't stop, we won't stop. But Abi, you weren't casting the event with us. Inadequence was playing in Hartford very successfully, I might add. What have you liked most about the stream? Was it us?
Well, definitely you guys, obviously. It's always the same. Not you, you were not in Malmo.
Still watch me.
But I think it was an introduction to a lot of different kinds of Pokemon as well that came in. And Malmo had like some amazing calls in the sense that there was like a bunch of no shields for no reason.
That's true.
that really punished the trainers. And we also had like the rise of ice types because, well, it's a Scandinavian country. So there had to be ice, right?
The ice is nice.
The ice is not only nice, it was also the spice for this event. So we have a breakdown for day one as well. Of course, the most used Pokemon was Medicham. Again, what do you guys think of that, Abi?
Well, I think Medicham is a staple pick. It's been a staple pick ever since the inception of PvP. Amazing typing, amazing coverage, and the counter is always impressive as a fast move. I think to take Medicham away from its spot is going to be very, very difficult. And there are Pokemon that do this. What are some of the Pokemon that you think can take Medicham off Inadequence?
I think, especially looking at previous meta, Trevenant was one of the Pokemon that could take Medicham the best. I think Sableye is another really good spot Pokemon to take that spot, right, as a Medicham counter. But there's very little Pokemon that like can do the same thing Medicham does, right? And you know, on top of that, Medicham is unique in its role as fighter because also counters other fighters because it has that psychic type.
Yes, so Medicham, of course, we have established it. We might get back to it later again because there has been a pretty intense update, and we will talk a little more about Medicham as well. We're also seeing Noctowl and Lantern dominant as ever. Actually, Lantern has not always dominated the PvP scene. Why is that now, Amanda?
I think Lantern is one of the Pokemon that really benefited from the previous charge attack update, right? So when it all of a sudden got Surf, it became so much more viable, beating all of the other water types pretty much, and also beating Noctowl, which was, let's face it, Noctowl was the big winner of the last attack update. However, I don't know, with the most recent attack update, what do you guys think? I think Noctowl might be knocked off of its perch.
I think in Malmo we saw quite some ice types. I think that this tournament we see a few more, right? And ice types happen to counter the flyers quite well. We have a Alolan Sandslash that I predict we will see quite a few times in this tournament.
However, this shouldn't really hit Lantern too hard, right? Because as a water type, it is also pretty good against those ice types resisting those attacks. However, there are two specific ice types I really adore that also got a ground type attack. Abi, what do you think are the top ice types for this event?
Oh, it's definitely got to be this Alolan Sandslash. And I also think I have a small place in my heart for Dugong because I've been using it for such a long time. And yeah, of course, also Snorlax apparently. But I think these two Pokemons are going to be the biggest winners of the current update. And come on, like giving a nice move, perfect coverage is exactly what you need.
I feel like, Leo, you maybe predicted the future a little bit because in the last one we were talking about Alolan Sandslash, and you may have called the bulldoze a drill run. But now look at it. Now all Alolan Sandslashes will be running a drill run.
And you know, I just had a feeling.
Buy a lottery ticket.
To be honest, it said bulldoze on the screen. I could have seen it. But in my defense, my Alolan Sandslash still had frustration, so yeah, that was pretty unfortunate for me.
So how about we take a look at the other charge attack updates
Yes.
that we had, because we had a really large attack update for this season, right? We didn't only have the Alolan Sandslash with Drill Run, we also see a couple more on the screen right now. We have Clefable with Fairy Wind. I think that gives it a very unique coverage. I think this allows Clefable as the one fairy type to beat Bastiodon with a shield up in the 2-1 shields. I just want to point it out real quick because I think it's cool. One Pokemon I think we'll see a lot as well is Quagsire. What is your prediction, Amanda, we'll see?
Well, I have to say that I ran Quagsire in your practice tournament, and I like it. The Mud Bomb hits a lot harder now than it did before, and especially if you're running a Shadow Quagsire, it's doing way more damage. Just being able to get to its charge attacks quicker is really important for Quagsire, because before it only really ran Earthquake or Stone Edge. Maybe you could bait with an Acid Spray, but it's not really that much of a bait, right?
Yeah, I think Quag is an alternate or a small variation of Swampert, let's say a side grade, with coverage to against, let's say, an Altaria, for example, because it has access to Stone Edge. That gives it really, really a powerful tool to hit back at Altaria. Another thing that I would like to talk about, what do you think about Drifblim and it having access to Mystic Fire now that it can beat Steel types?
Yeah, I was gonna say that it can really fight back against Registeel now. It can fight back against the Galarian Stunfisk. However, I mean, you basically need a Ghost type on your team right now, because Medicham, with the increase of Ice types that we're going to see, is going to be a lot more powerful. You want to have a Ghost there. I don't think that Drifblim is necessarily the best answer, because we still have Sableye in the format, which might also be one of the biggest winners of the recent attack update. Inadequate, what do you think?
I think Drifblim's most niche is debuffing the opponent, or baiting with debuffs moves, right? Because Mystical Fire is basically a sort of an Icy Wind clone, but then it's a Fire type move. It allows you to give a little bit more coverage to like Alolan Sandslash, Galarian Stunfisk, and Registeel. You make those matchups a little bit better. Another pick that I really like here that has been buffed is the Golisopod with Liquidation. It's the charge attacks on this Pokemon haven't been really useful for it so far, and it's not the bulkiest Pokemon out there, but it has that unique water and bug typing. The most common Pokemon that we've seen with that is Araquanid. I think Golisopod has like Shadow Claw to hit Medicham for super effective damage, Liquidation to hit Galarian Stunfisk for super effective damage. Obviously, you're still not great against the Noctowl. I think it's a really cool Pokemon.
I think one thing we should also keep in mind is there are some Pokemon that kind of fell out of the meta, like a Walrein and Nidoqueen when the last update happened. But now, I mean, with Icicle Spear and Poison Fang kind of being back into the picture, we might see these Pokemon back in action.
Yeah, I was gonna see, how many Nidoqueens do you guys predict for this tournament? I mean, there are some more Ice types. So you think zero?
I don't think we'll see a lot of Nidoqueens. Yes, the Poison Fang move got a damage update, but the moves, the reason that move was so good was that it debuffs, and it debuffs so quickly.
Right.
Giving it that damage update, not entirely sure if that's going to help Nidoqueen a lot. But what I would like to also think about is, like, we see all these move updates, we see all these Pokemon having new moves, we see the moves damage being increased, but we can't really predict the meta, because there will be some Pokemon that's just not in the graph that's going to show up. What do you think? Do you have any picks?
I do have some predictions. We all made actually some predictions which Pokemon will be used quite commonly here. As we can see here, the caster predictions that we have here, we all predicted which Pokemon we will see rising in this tournament. Now, we have some boring picks here. We see that I picked one of my favorite Pokemon, Sableye, and so did Amanda, right?
Yes,
and I also predict Araquanid and Venusaur to be rising. Venusaur replacing Trevenant maybe a little bit as a grass type, simply because Seed Bomb is a little bit more of an expensive charge attack right now.
Can you tell us why you picked Araquanid?
I think Araquanid has very unique coverage currently. I definitely didn't pick it because the senior world champion beat me with it. But it beats Pokemon like Umbreon, Cresselia. It can basically beat every single neutral matchup. Just straight Bubble Beam, because it's a bulky Pokemon that can keep debuffing. It really only loses to like Registeel and Noctowl.
Speaking of a team that maybe lost, but still, went pretty far, is that Dunsparce team that you ran against that world champion. I have to say, I think Dunsparce, we'll see a lot more of it as well, because Dunsparce, we already know, has amazing charge attack coverage with the drill run and the rock slide, but now rollout being able to do just a tad bit more, I think we'll be able to flip the fact that sometimes it doesn't benefit because it is that normal type. It doesn't have that same type attack bonus. It might be the slight edge that it takes to really take it home.
Yeah, I think that rollout buff is just what it needs to kind of farm down some Pokemon, get some extra energy, because earlier you just couldn't do that. That one extra damage is going to go a long way. My picks are pretty simple. It's Umbreon. Why? Because as inadequate, as you can see already in the graph, there's 2 people who have picked Sableye. Which Pokemon does well against Sableye? Umbreon. That's my pick. Again, Venusaur, and everybody knows there's the rise of Ice type, so I think Kanto Ninetales also has a place in the meta. But talking about Ice types, I've seen you pick 2.
Yeah, I just wanted to go with some new stuff, I wanted to get a lowland Sandslash in there. Part of this is because a Mind Joke is participating in this tournament, and we have this huge storyline coming up, and I think that he's going to do exceptionally well. Dugong, just because I want to see it. It's really not because I think it's better than a lowland Sandslash. The coverage is basically the same. I think that Sandslash, especially the Shadow version, might be a little bit stronger, but I want to see some Dugong, maybe also with a water type fast attack, or a charge attack, I'm sorry. But Quagsire also is a really, really strong pick. We have talked about it before. Mud Bomb is not really that much of a baiting move anymore because it really hits, especially in the Shadow version. And Stonehenge is great coverage for Altaria and Noctowl. So matchups that Swampert struggled with before are now being fixed, basically.
Yeah, I agree. So speaking of a Mind Joke, Leonard, we didn't only prepare our Pokemon predictions, we also discussed a little bit which player do we think will get very far or even win all of it. Which one did you have again, Leonard?
It's a tough one. I'm torn between 2 players. First of all, a Mind Joke just makes sense, right? We have this big storyline building up. He went to almost every tournament this season. He made 3rd place and he made 4th place, always one of the world qualifier. And he just, his signature Pokemon is the Shadow Alolan Sandslash with his huge buff with Drill Run added to it. It's fantastic. It just has to happen. The other player I want to highlight is Stone Collection.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this for a long time now, that Stone Collection is going to win a tournament. I think those 2 are going to play out the finals and Stone Collection is going to win it. Abi, what do you think?
Just like you said, I've been torn between 2 players as well. One is Aspercelto. He's known in the Italian community. He's one of the best battlers that they have. And the other one is a very good friend of mine who's been part of my Pokemon journey for, I think, over 3 years now, is Raging Taz. He's a very highly skilled battler. He doesn't do a lot of play Pokemon tournaments. This is his first one, so I'm really looking forward for him to make a good run and take it all home.
Well, I didn't realize that we actually got 2 people, so now I'm going to have to think of a second really quick. But I'm going to go ahead and say the first one for sure is going to be Paula Shaw at 97. Now, maybe you guys haven't really heard of her as much because she hasn't been that active in the play Pokemon circuit, but if you do Go Battle League, if you are a grassroots player, you definitely know who she is. She's been #1 on the leaderboard. She's a top contender. She has traveled all the way here to Italy, and I think she's going to go far. I'll think about my second, and I'll come back. What about you, Martijn?
Well, one of them, I think, is Scafo99. Scafo has one goal: win all of it. He's already qualified for Worlds along with Tonton Bateus. There's basically 2 players already qualified for Worlds in Yokohama this season, right? And Scafo only has the Travel Award to win here. I think also that makes him a little bit of the villain in the tournament, right? Because if you want to qualify for Worlds, you have to get through Scafo, because he is that player who only has one thing to win. I think other players also have the Worlds Invite to win. For Scafo's only the Travel Award. Yeah, and the
this
second
is like
pick,
if someone is an expert at 29.88,
Exactly.
and all of a sudden they're facing Scafo, who's already a legend, and they're like, is he gonna gatekeep me?
Exactly. It could exactly. That's a very good comparison indeed. You could see it like that. My second pick would be Dex, a very good player from France. And he's already reached the 3rd place in Bilbao before he reached top 4 in Liverpool. He has proven he is one of the best. He also won Lille 2022 last season, so I think he will get very far as well.
So Dex also kind of with a mind joke storyline, right?
Yeah.
Always reaching the semifinals, so to say. A fantastic player as well. Got to meet him. He has the most chill attitude on stream. You will see him sitting like Abi in the hardest battles of his entire career. This man is just unfazed all the time. So, guys, thank you for doing this introduction with me. We are setting up the players soon. We are going to show you a little video and then you will meet us back at the casting desk.
Hello trainers, this is Count Xevious. I know you are all enjoying the current regionals, but let's take a few minutes to check what's happened before and how battlers have fought their way through the Malmo regionals to punch the last few tickets left to Yokohama. Day 1 in Malmo started with over 101 trainers trickling in to the Malmo Masan Center. Pokemon Go PvP heavyweights like a Mind Joke, Bibelicious, Stone Collection and Arceus Aurelius all lined up to compete for their ticket to Yokohama with the goal of winning the regionals and most importantly a chance to etch their name into Pokemon Go PvP folklore. Day 1 was an absolute blast. After 6 hours of intense battles, the dust finally settled down, revealing the top 8. You had the Yellow Ripper, Zephymastix, a Mind Joke, Bibelicious, Snorlax, Arsenio, Galaxco Bolson and Danky Chan ready to battle it out for the regionals title and securing their ticket to Yokohama. Breaking down the top 8 in Malmo, we see the slow but sure fall of Trevenant, with it being in only 3 out of the 8 teams. Medicham, Noctowl and Lantern continued their dominance and were present in 7 out of the 8 teams. It cannot be a Swedish regional without the ice types coming in. Shadow Alolan Sandslash and Shadow Abomasnow make their appearance in 2 out of the 8 teams, the same number of times as their more well-known ice counterpart, Shadow Alolan Ninetales. Day 2 commenced with Zephymastix kicking it off with a 2-0 win against the Yellow Ripper in the winners semifinals round 1. He did this with his out-of-the-meta pick, Shadow Gliscor, boosting itself and powering through the Yellow Ripper's Sableye and Registeel. This intense match was quickly followed up by Bibelicious defeating a Mind Joke in the second winners semifinal, riding on the back of amazing shield calls and energy management on his Pokemon. In the winners final, we see Zephymastix beating Bibelicious 3-0, riding on the momentum built by his Shadow Gliscor, landing an Earthquake through 2 shields on Bibelicious Galarian Stunfisk. With the winners final secure, the losers bracket gave us some exciting games, with Danky-chan overcoming his fellow Shadow Alolan Sandslash user, a Mind Joke, only to have to beat Bibelicious to get to the grand finals. Unfortunately for Danky-chan, Bibelicious displayed an absolute clinic of a performance in the losers final, sweeping him 3-0 and setting up a rematch against Zephymastix in the grand finals. The finals started with Zephymastix pulling off an amazing Earthquake catch onto his Noctowl from Bibelicious' Galarian Stunfisk to enable his Registeel to pull out a big Focus Blast to take out Bibelicious' Abomasnow. However, Bibelicious' Sableye clawed through Zephymastix' team after surviving a huge Zap Cannon to put a point up for Bibelicious. This game gave Bibelicious enough steam to win the next 2 games and reset the bracket.
From the stands here, as this bracket reset is now well and truly going to be underway.
Building on to the momentum gained in the first grand finals, Bibelicious outmaneuvered Zephymastix to take a 2-point lead. However, Zephymastix read Bibelicious like an open book and used his Sableye to close out game number 3, keeping him in the game. With Bibelicious needing 1 win to crown himself the regional champion, Zephymastix's Shadow Gliscor pulled through once again by landing an Earthquake through 2 shields onto Bibelicious' Medicham, tying the score 2-2. With the title on the line, Zephymastix went to his trusted Shadow Gliscor for help
and his Pokemon heard his call. The Shadow Gliscor managed to take 2 shields off Bibelicious, setting up the perfect environment for Zephymastrix to win. The game still came down to the wire with a huge Energy Ball catch by Zephymastrix, which enabled his Noctowl to crown him the Malmo Regional Champion.
Oh my goodness. So the wing attacks are coming in. It is the race here. Will the Powder Snows come through first? The Weather Ball, sorry. And it is a Sky attack coming in on the Shadow Abomasnow. This is going to bring it really pretty close to KO. The audience kind of know this might be it. This might be it. This might be it. And there we have it. Zephymastrix is your Malmo Regional Champion.
Buongiorno from the casting desk as well for round number 1, which is not quite ready yet. So we will have a lot to discuss, basically.
Of course, there's always a lot to discuss when especially when it starts. Yeah, you almost got me there with that one.
Good one. So we actually can discuss the prizes that you can win at a Pokemon special event, especially for Go. I don't even know if the prizes differ from the games to the games. I just know that there's different ways to qualify for the World Championships.
Yeah, the only difference between a regional and a special event is that there's no prize money to win. But a lot of the players here don't really come for the prize money.
Yeah.
All they want is that ticket, the ticket that gets them to Yokohama to compete in the world's best stage for Pokemon Go.
Yeah, and also, to be honest, money is included in the travel award, so you want to win this event, even though many of the players are going to be happy with the second place as well, because there are not that many spots left in Yokohama. To be honest, there are very few spots left. This is the last event in Europe that you can compete in to qualify for the World Championship. But you will also get some nice booster boxes, 2 for the first and second place, 1 for the third and fourth place, 18 booster packs for the 5th and 8th place, and 9 booster packs for the 9th and 16th.
I mean, talking about booster packs, right? I know you picked somebody who loves booster packs, and I'm sure he will be absolutely delighted to win any of these.
Yeah, Stone Collection is always hungry to collect some cards.
Stone Collection loves to collect?
Oh wait, that makes a lot of sense, to be honest. I never thought about it that way. Talking about Stone Collection, he is known for one Pokemon. This is basically his signature Pokemon, which is Samurott. What do you think about that one? Is it going to be a bit stronger, this event?
I think Samurott is not going to be stronger because it was already a very strong Pokemon with very, very good movesets. Like, it's a Grass-type Pokemon, it's weak to it's a Water-type Pokemon, so it's weak to Grass types. It has perfect coverage with Mega Horn, and Hydro Cannon is one of the best moves in the game. You do not want to put Liquidation on it.
Yeah, that's what I was a bit sad about when I saw the attack update. I saw that that was a Samurott. I was extremely excited, and then it was Liquidation, which is just slightly not as good as the Hydro Cannon. Liquidation still, if you have it on another Pokemon, it is a really strong attack. It has the same stats as Crunch, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. And talking about Liquidation, right? We have had a meta change. That's why there's the new moves been introduced into this meta. There's a good thing about this tournament is that this is the first tournament that's going to happen with the new meta changes. There are other tournaments that will be happening, and the graph will be displayed shortly. Do you know where they are going to be?
Yes, they are going to be in Milwaukee and Santiago, and that is also going to be really exciting. But we are just the very first to play it out on stream, to have some battlers with those new attacks like the Drill Run on Dugong or the Drill Run on Alolan Sandslash. Is there Drill Run on anything else?
Well, to be honest, I think Drill Run on Alolan Sandslash is just the icing on top of the cake.
Called it. Oh, icing.
You did.
Oh.
Yeah, you did. You absolutely called it. I was watching the stream. I was like, it's a bulldoze. Drill Run. Oh my God! You just poke it to existence.
Yes.
You must do that more.
I paused it. Okay, so I'm just going to call all the wrong attacks on every Pokemon that I really like.
And I'm gonna sit here being like, oh.
Darmanitan gets Shadow Claw now.
Yeah, that would be a fun attack to add. But Incinerate is so much better.
Yeah, that is actually a really good attack. So, what do you think? This is actually a really interesting question that I was asking myself after getting destroyed by a Talonflame on GBL this morning. Is this the return of the fire types?
I think there will be a place for fire types, for sure. I think fire types like Talonflame might see a comeback. We have Dex playing. He's known to pioneer his Talonflame. We also have other Pokemon that kind of got a minor buff in the sense that they are very good against the Pokemon that got buffs, and that's usually how a meta kind of develops.
Yeah.
It's like you have a buff for a Pokemon, and then suddenly all the other Pokemon that were not really involved in this meta update get a buff because they're so good against this. Like a Kanto Ninetales, for example, it has absolute nukes, and the shadow form does so much damage.
Yes.
And once what happened to me is that the Kanto Ninetale shiny is white, so I thought it was an Alolan Knight.
Oh.
And I switched in my dark type.
No.
And that was a very bad experience.
No, why would you switch in a dark type?
Because I did not have another direct counter for the Kanto Ninetale.
So you're trying to last resort it with your Umbreon.
It was my last result to go with the Umbreon, but unfortunately it didn't work out.
And yes, I can imagine that it didn't work out perfectly fine. However, this is also still kind of a bait-dependent matchup. If you get Weather Balled too many times, it doesn't really add up that much, but you really don't want to get Dazzling Gleam.
Yep, but unfortunately for me, it was not the Dazzling Gleam I was afraid of. It was a Charm Alolan Ninetales. So all I had to do was tap my screen and watch as my Pokemon go back as fast as possible into its Pokeball, because it couldn't do anything.
Yeah, what do you think about Charmers now? Charm has got a little decrease in damage a few attack updates ago. However, we have Shadow Alolan Ninetales now, which was introduced a few events before in a Team Rocket takeover event. Do you think that Charm is really good right now, or is like Shadow Alolan Sandslash on so many teams that you really don't want to lose to an aggressive Steel type?
Yep, I think it's going to be a very precarious situation. It's always been for Charmers, right? There's always been Steel types in every team, and the goal is to try and maneuver around the Steel types. So Charmers always are going to be there, but probably not as much. But speaking of Charmers, there's another Fairy type that got a buff, which is
Wigglytuff.
And Clefable.
Oh yeah.
Also
Wigglytuff as well.
Wigglytuff as well. But Clefable is much more major. I mean, just going off this, we see two teams already here.
Yes. We have them. We have both of them.
Yes, we have both of them. We actually have 3 ice types in this bout. And you have Shadow Alolan Sandslash, Shadow Alolan Ninetale, Shadow Charizard, Shadow Venusaur, Shadow Swampert, and the only thing that's a non-shadow is a Machamp.
is non-shadow. That is absolutely crazy. That is the Pokemon that I would think would be shadow the most, apart from Sandslash. You know what? That is a really off-meta team.
Yeah, that is an off-meta team, but that's going to require a lot of shields. But that's also going to put the Maki in a situation where she has to pull up a lot of shields as well, because anything from a Charizard Shadow Charizard is going to hurt. Just walk us through Maki's team. It looks a little bit more conventional and what we usually see in Play Pokemon Circuit. What do you think of the team?
Yeah, she has a really strong lineup of Sableye, Medicham, Lantern, Registeel, and Noctowl with the newest addition of Dewgong, which I absolutely adore. In Pokemon Journeys, it was one of my favorite Pokemon that Go had. It was super cute.
Yeah, I love Dewgong. I've loved it even before its boost. It's very cute. It's one of the cutest Pokemon you can see.
Very important factor.
Very important factor. And its moves are absolutely amazing. It's a bulky Pokemon inherently, but Icy Winds makes it even more bulky. Just looking at these two teams, you see that the Dewgong has a lot of play here. It can hit everything for neutral or super effective. And we were wrong. They updated the graphics. It is a Shadow Machamp.
Yeah! We go 6 shadows. So yes, both players will need more than 2 shields. Unfortunately, none of them is going to get a third one. And I find this really interesting because, of course, Zapuzzo can always just decide before or during the game what Pokemon he wants to put his shields on. You know, you can see the opposing lead, but Sabaku no Maki will have a much harder time to decide which attacks to shield, because you don't want to let a drill run from an Alolan Sandslash to go unshielded. You really don't want to take that. However, if there is a Shadow Blast Burn or a Frenzy Plant loaded as well, you much rather put your shields on that.
Yep. Speaking of shields, the match is up and running. Let's see where these shields go. Machamp into a Noctowl. This is not a lead. This is not the lead that you want to see. This is a very favorable matchup for Noctowl, being a flying type, but this Machamp hits really hard.
Yes, and we are maybe going to see... Oh, wow. Is this a charge attack priority event? Sabaku no Maki went for 7 wing attacks. Has to shield this now because the Rock Slide would inevitably take out the Noctowl, and you don't want to lose the alignment already. So maybe we're actually seeing a Sky Attack connect right here.
Yeah. Sky Attack being thrown by Maki, but unfortunately getting shielded. But this puts her in a really, really strong position because she does get to the Sky Attack before the next Rock Slide. Let's see what Sapuzo does. Does he go for the cross chop? Yes, he does. He wants that damage. He wants that little bit of damage going onto the Noctowl, but it is getting shielded.
And this is, I think, a charge attack priority event, or did Sabaku no Maki decide to go for... No, she decided to farm it down, and now we're seeing no shields on the Sapuzo side. We can... Oh no, 1 shield on the Sapuzo side. Now we're seeing no shields, so... scratch what I said before, thinking about where am I going to use my shields. We're just going to use all of those immediately. We're going to find another Sky Attack before the Hydro Cannon.
Sky Attack comes in, and unfortunately Sapuzo does not have a shield to protect his Swampert. Swampert is a Shadow Pokemon. It's also fairly frail, and look at how much damage that Shadow Claws did. But here comes a an Earthquake onto the Medicham, and there is no shields to protect this Medicham.
To be completely honest, this Noctowl rules. That was so much damage that it put out. We are going to farm down the Hydro Cannon. I wonder if the Swampert, I wonder if 2 Hydro Cannons would have been a better choice for Sapuzo here.
Yep, 2 Hydro Cannons would have been a better choice, but here comes Medicham. Medicham farmed down that Swampert and now has this Psychic Stoat. This is a stab move, so it's going to do so much damage to that Alolan Ninetales. And there is still 2 more Pokemon for Sapuzo to go through with his Alolan Ninetales.
Yes, and yes, you can reach a Dazzling Gleam against the Lantern, but you will have to throw a Weather Ball before into the Noctowl, and I doubt that you are going to take too many Water Guns or Sparks. It is indeed Sparks, so you're much rather likely to reach a Dazzling Gleam. However, that wouldn't even be enough to KO it, and we are going to see a full Spark down from Sabaku no Maki.
That is the perfect play. You need to spark this down, and here comes a Machamp. You can still spark this down as well, and a very, very dominant Game 1 display by Maki. And Sapuzo really, really needs to rethink his strategy, because leading a Machamp into the Noctowl, how you want to play it out is by throwing the cross chop bait first, and then you get to the Rock Slide at charge attack priority.
That makes a lot of sense, to be honest. However, it would have worked as well. He tried to throw the cross chop, it would have KO'd. Would have KO'd the... Are you sure?
It would live with a sliver of HP, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to give you this then. However, I think the crucial mistake in this scenario was throwing an Earthquake against the Medicham instead of going for 2 Hydro Cannons. That would have taken out the Medicham, and you would have been left with the Shadow Alolan Ninetales versus the Lantern, which is, yes, not the best matchup. However, if you maybe find a catch onto your Medicham and you go for a Dazzling Gleam plus a Weather Ball, then you have a much better chance.
Yeah, but it was an uphill climb. I think starting from the lead, starting from the switch in Pokemon, and starting from what he had at the back, it was a very uphill climb. And the game, he played it as best as he could. Yeah. Of course, this is, you know, it is a special event. People are watching. He needs to, you know, kind of bring focus back and try to play the game and be comfortable in what he's doing. But Maki was like, I'm perfectly fine here. I have these 3 Pokemon, and I'm going to absolutely outbulk you. That's exactly what she did.
The Noctowl put in so much work. It took out 1.5 Pokemon. That was absolutely insane. Looking at the matchup, I think that we're unfortunately not going to see a Dugong.
Yes, unfortunately, but I don't know, maybe she brings it out as a surprise. Like, just the last 2 picks, right? There was a Shadow Alolan Ninetales, he's at Paris now. So again, suddenly Dugong's matchup is better. And you have a Swampert, so as long as you keep throwing those Icy Winds, because Hydro Cannon is resisted, so you're going to slowly trickle away at the Swampert as well. The only thing that you need to avoid is that Machamp, because if you see that Machamp, you're not going to be Dugong for a long time.
That is true. Also, Venusaur is going to deal a lot of damage, however you're going to deal a lot of damage as well. We are seeing Shadow Machamp versus the Medicham. Immediate switch out into the Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales, and we are just countering onto it, trying to catch a Weather Ball. Now we're going to go for a direct Dazzling Gleam.
Yep. I think Maki made the good play of trying to get some energy, but here comes the Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam does so much damage.
Yeah.
That is insane amount of damage onto the Lantern, but here comes Maki with a Thunderbolt. Will this be shielded by Sapuzo, or is he like, okay, you've done your job, thank you for the damage, and I'm going to go to my next Pokemon, and that's exactly what he did.
So we are saving shields. This Lantern is actually pretty tough to beat for Sapuzo. He will need to go for a Hydro Cannon. Could have gone for one, but decides to farm up a little bit more energy. We are going to take a Surf. This is going to deal a little bit under half, under half, because there was this spark damage added up. Are we going to farm down the Lantern before it reaches the Surf? What a huge farm down. We have 2 Hydro Cannons stored.
That's a huge Mudshot down. Swampert is absolutely loaded, and Maki coming in with the Noctowl. Noctowl is a fairly bulky Pokemon, so what she wants to do now is to tank all this damage onto the Noctowl, but 2 Hydro Cannons is enough, almost enough to take out this Noctowl. Let's see what happens. Here comes the next Hydro Cannon. Both players with 2 shields remaining and unwilling to use it, but here we go. The shield is up.
The first shield is up, because then Sapuzo could have just switched immediately and farmed down the Noctowl if it hit. So we are going to see a switch, and now I think you have to use a shield.
Yeah, here comes the shield here. This puts Charizard in a very nice scenario where it can farm a lot of energy. Here comes the first Sky Attack. It's shielded. Let's see what he does. Will he go to the Blast Burn? No, he does not. He goes for the Dragon Claw. Does Maki know that whether it's a Blast Burn or not? Will she let this go? If she does, it's going to be absolutely huge. And no, she no shields. This is amazing, because the Noctowl can now get to a move.
Wow, I mean, we weren't at a Blast Burn before on Sapuzo's side. He is going to get a lot of farm here as well. I think he will only need 3 fast attacks to get the next Blast Burn onto the Medicham. We are going to see a Psychic immediately. This is going to deal a lot of damage. Charizard is incredibly frail. Are we going to see an immediate knockout? Yes, this absolutely takes out the Charizard. We are trying to farm up to an Earthquake, can't quite reach it. Going for a desperate Hydro Cannon. The shield is going to come up by Medicham, and Sabakuno Maki is maybe going to take this one with another counter.
Exactly, the counter comes in, and that is it. She's done absolutely well. Medicham Psychicked that Charizard out of the sky, and absolute dominant way to take a round 1 win.
Yes, 2-0, perfect usage of the shields. In game 1, she won with basically just her Noctowl, taking out 1 entire Machamp and 70% of the Swampert's health. And in game 2, it just soaked up a little bit of Hydro Cannon damage.
Yeah, exactly. And just game 2 is a very good example, as you said, to showcase what Sapuzo was trying to do, was that he was trying to play the ABB strat in a way, which is you have a good Pokemon and then you try to bait out the counter for the Charizard with your Alolan Ninetales, which is what happened, but Maki played absolutely well.
Yep. I mean, the thing is, you're trying to bait out the counter for the Charizard. It worked, but this Lantern was really good against every single Pokemon. I mean, the Shadow Swampert matchup is a little bit difficult for the Lantern. Those Mudshots, for some reason, really do add up. However, 2 Surfs is also enough to take out a Swampert, so that is
no,
kind of
2 Surfs are not enough. If you're running a Spark
Lantern. Oh, really?
Yes. No, 2 Surfs are not enough. You
okay,
need 3.
Water Gun it is, guys.
Yeah, Water Gun always. Water Gun's the way to go. But I think it was a very good showcase of 2 different approaches to the game. It's like Maki was like, I have a strategy, I know what to do, and I'm going to stick to my gameplay. And Sapuzo was trying to make Maki make a mistake, which she did by bringing in the Lantern. But in the end, it worked out because that Noctowl, again, game 1's MVP absolutely went in the game to saying, Swampert, throw your Hydro Cannons at me, I'm fine.
Yes, Mudshots don't really add up against the Noctowl as well. However, you need some Mudshots to take out half of the HP of a Noctowl.
Exactly. And that's the thing, right? Like, the Noctowl came in, tanked a Hydro Cannon, and then the Charizard came in. It took 2 shields from the Charizard. And that's huge, because all the Medicham had to do is walk in and say, hi, I have a Psychic.
Yes, the Psychic really just took out the Charizard. Usually this is a really good matchup for the Fire and Flying type. Again, we were talking about Fire types. However, I was thinking about Pokemon that use Fire attacks more frequently. You know, Charizard, eventually gets to a blast burn, but then it doesn't even matter if this is a fire type attack, because just the raw power, the sheer damage that this Pokemon has is enough to take everything out. It almost takes out half an Azumarill, which is basically impossible for every other neutral attacker.
Exactly. I think Charizard is a very, very powerful Pokemon. It's always been, from the main series games, I mean, to the anime as well. Charizard always has everybody. I think it's at some point in your childhood, doesn't matter who you are, if you're watching Pokemon, you would always have this argument, Charizard should have been a Dragon-type Pokemon.
And eventually it became one with Gen 6 in the Kalos region, mega evolving into this Dragon Fire type. Really cool design.
Yeah, that's a beautiful design. Black and blue, perfect. Perfect.
Yes, and you could also see it in some shows as well. It is absolutely a fantastic Pokemon. However, I was thinking more about Pokemon like Kanto Ninetales that you actually took for your prediction.
Yeah, of course, we can talk a lot about Kanto Ninetales. I can keep talking about it, but the interviews are ready. Let's hear it from our winner for round number 1.
Thanks, Leo and Avi. We are kicking off and into an incredible start here. I am here with Maki, and I just want to say, first of all, congratulations. That was a very decisive 2-0 run. And is this your first tournament?
Yes, I've been in other tournaments as staff member.
Okay.
And this time I would like to just play and to test if I am really good at playing.
Yeah, off to a good start.
Yeah, it's really my first match in my first tournament, so yeah.
I have to ask you a little bit about your team composition, because you're playing a lot of Pokemon that I think a lot of Pokemon Go players are familiar with.
Yes, my team was almost a full meta team. So yeah, there are so many Pokemon that I already use in GBL. So yeah, I'm very familiar with them. And my opponent had a very spicy team with those shadow Pokemon, which some of them I didn't even know the damage that they could do to my team. So it's been a little, yeah.
Yeah, what were your first thoughts when you saw that whole shadow team?
Yeah, I thought, oh my God. Just because I didn't know the exact damage that they could have done to my team, and also the damage that my Pokemon could do to their Pokemon. So it was a little bit, yeah.
In game 2, when you saw that he was saving the shields, did you suspect maybe it was a Charizard in the back?
Yeah, but unfortunately it went everything well, so yeah.
Yeah, that was a very when you hit the psychic, it was like perfect, right?
Yeah, so it was good, yeah.
Now, I have to ask, we said that your team is a bit meta, like you said, but you did choose to use Dugong. What was your choice behind that as your ice type? I think Leo is now winning a caster prediction where he said that he thought that there would be that as the ice type.
Because it has now a new charge move, which is Drill Run, so I thought it could be helpful against steel types. So yeah, it's just a new Pokemon. Didn't use it very much in the past, but yeah, it has a new moveset, so I wanted to bring it and to see if it's a good Pokemon now.
Now, I also have to say, we've had a big reputation in Pokemon Go for players. Their first time competing have made it to day 2. They've gone all the way and been the champions. How are you feeling about your chances? You think you're going to be our champion for Torino?
I don't think so. I'm not so good, but I will try. So.
Well, not so good. I think you had a very good start at least.
I will try at least. So let's see where I will end the tournament.
Well, best of luck to you, Maki.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Leo, you're up 1. We have the Dugong.
Actually, Leo, you're up 2 because there was a Dugong and a Sandslash. You just picked the top meta Pokemon, man. Come on.
Yes, I was a bit disappointed that we, in this full Shadow team, didn't see a Shadow Quagsire. That would have been the holy trinity for me.
Yeah, exactly. You would be 3 points ahead, and then we would never have been catching up. But speaking of being 3 points ahead, we are now going to a next round, which is also going to be the round number 2 already, winners, and we will have Sandudu. I think Sandudu, for me, is one of the best battlers to come out of the French teams. I've played him multiple times, only managed to beat him once. Actually, not even once. He's always outplayed me. So I hope he's going to do well. So I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen.
Yeah, we have quite the French powerhouses in this event. We have Tonton Batteuse as well. We have Dex. So that's actually kind of crazy. I think those players are also staying in an apartment together for this event with a big group of friends.
I think events become a little bit more of a community thing in the sense that you have all the French community joining in and taking a house and staying there together and having fun, and you also have the Italian community, which hopefully at some point you will see. They have these shirts called Eat Pasta, and they have a pasta picture here and different pasta on different people's t-shirts, and it's really nice to see.
That is just absolutely fantastic. So guys, this is your moment for next season probably, because there is nothing else this season except for Yokohama, which is a bit hard to get to if you haven't qualified yet.
Just a little bit.
Grab your friends, rent an apartment or something, or go into a hotel, go to these events, have fun with your friends, and maybe win a title.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, going with friends, I think the Italians planned it out really well. So they have this schedule where they're like, okay, we're going to visit the city from this time to this time with all of you. They invited the community as well to walk around with them in the city. And that's a great way to go to a tournament, experience the tournament, and also experience the city, because Turin, as you saw when we let it out, beautiful city. Like, absolutely beautiful. And I'm really looking forward to going out for a stroll today and just soaking it in.
After this event, of course, because we have some more rounds to play and some more rounds to watch and commentate over. And to be honest, I'm a bit more excited about that one.
Yeah, of course you would say that.
I mean, I just love those games. The atmosphere at those tournaments is absolutely crazy. This is another reason why you should go and visit those tournaments, play those tournaments. It is just a lot of fun. Everyone in here is so nice. Everyone is just having fun. It's a great experience overall.
Yep, I think, as I said, one of the biggest selling points of the community of Pokemon Go PvP community is the community. Like, you meet so many people along the way, and you meet them again. And one of the best feelings that I have when I come to these events is always putting a face to a username.
Yeah.
Because if you battle long enough, you always see these like players' names. Okay, I've battled you. Hey, I've battled you. Hey, what's your name? Hi. You know, that's it. When you put a face onto somebody, you have a connection, and that's what this is all about, right? And
sometimes you actually learn the real names of the players and not just the usernames.
Yep. We close like that to some players, right?
that is absolutely true. I think I know 5 names.
Oh wow! Okay, I think I should know more, but that's because I've been playing PvP for 5 years. So
that is also true.
So it takes a while to get there.
So what do you think? You said that Sonduru is a player that you have quite the experience battling against. What do you think he's going to bring?
Oof. I think he's going to bring Umbreon. He loves Umbreon, as far as I know.
That would be one of your picks?
Yeah, that would be one of my picks, so I'm fingers crossed, hopefully. So if he brings an Umbreon, and I think he might also look at the possibility of bringing Cresselia, because I know he knows a bit of bulky mons, and also mons that you can play around and dance around with, and these two are mons that you can do that with. Like, for example, Cresselia against a Sableye, you think, okay, it's a Psychic-type Pokemon, it's going to be absolutely destroyed by Sableye. But if you have 2 Psycho Cut advantage, you can actually beat the Sableye in the Zero Shields. Moonblast plus Grass Knot knocks out a Sableye.
I mean, Sableye is not the bulkiest of Pokemon, so that works. Moonblast hits really hard for super effective damage. What I like about bulky Pokemon as well is it gives you so much more flexibility, because the game just takes a bit more time, and therefore your timer is going to run out faster on the switching. So you can maybe get this one important catch, and the game becomes less alignment dependent.
Yep. I think a lot of high skill battlers abuse this a lot. I've seen people swapping in, let's say, they abuse it in 2 ways. They either swap in a really, really hard-hitting Pokemon like Swampert, and also Swampert's advantage, it hits hard and also hits really fast. So by the time you're done with like 4 charge moves, like your opponent's charge moves, your charge moves, your opponent's charge moves, and your charge moves, suddenly the switch clock is up. And then you can make a catch that absolutely flips the game, because you've been shielding your Swampert and it's still healthy and it's going to obliterate whatever is behind.
Yeah, as soon as Swampert comes in with 1 or 2 Hydro Cannons, that is going to be a big problem, especially if shields are down. I mean, that's basically the same thing with most of these Shadow Pokemon, except for a Charm Shadow Alolan Ninetales, which doesn't really reach those attacks faster. Actually, that's one of the best Pokemon to be in a scenario where both players have 2 shields and you're just at 1 Pokemon and you're knowing that your opponent will give you extra turns.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a very, very powerful Pokemon, especially when you have shields up. These are Pokemon Go players, right? They're already looking at their phone, probably playing the game as well. I think there's a very important concept that's been passed on, is let's 2-shield a Charmer.
Yeah.
And people kind of look at it in a bad way, but look, if you can't beat a 2-shielded Charmer, you bought your team comp that was wrong.
That is true. And I mean, you should probably bring more steel types, which leads me to the next question. So, Shadow, Alolan, Sandslash. Incredibly powerful, a lot of damage. It is a steel type.
Yeah.
So do you expect people to swap out their Galarian Stunfisk or their Registeel in their teams for a Shadow, Alolan, Sandslash? Or are they not substituting it and just playing it extra?
Well, I think one of the key aspects that you need to look at from an Alolan Sandslash is not just its steel typing, but it's also its ice typing. Just because the fact that it's going to take a lot of damage from counters.
Yeah.
Right? So Registeel for me is a better steel type Pokemon if you just look at it from a steel perspective, just because one, it can beat the Medicham, and two, it's also a lot stronger against, let's say, the coverage of it all is amazing. And it's also super strong against Lantern, and it can do a lot of damage to Shadow Swamperts by just the Focus Blast. So as a closer, it's perfect. But talking about talking about our picks, none of our picks made it. But at least I was semi-okay when I said he's going to bring a lot of bulky Pokemon. Dudu is helping me by bringing Lantern and Lickitung.
So, Avi, is there anything specifically standing out to you in this matchup?
Yes, I see a Girafarig. It has access to Double Kick and Psychic Fang, which makes it a very good Pokemon to use to kind of debuff your opponents to oblivion. So, as a G-Fisk, Galarian Stunfisk, you do not really want to be here, because he could potentially two-shield Double Kick you down by throwing straight Psychic Fangs. But I'm kind of sad because Chroma's team has 2 of Inadequence's picks, and so far I'm 0-0. I think Rob is kind of doing this. He's kind of, Venusaur and Araquanid is amazing Pokemons to have. But just looking at Dudu's team, for Venusaur, you only really have one answer, which is the Charizard. Right? It can beat all the other Pokemon, so he needs to find a way to maneuver around this charge to Venusaur. So we already know he has to bring the Charizard every game.
Yeah.
So Chroma already knows, okay, that's one Pokemon that's going to be there.
So you can just basically bring your Venusaur and your Lantern as a hard answer to this Charizard. So basically, if you lead your Venusaur and your opponent does not lead the Charizard, you are in a really good position.
Exactly. The same goes for Chroma's Obstagoon as well. We saw at the Obstagoon doing really well in Malmo because it core broke a lot of teams. Just Obstagoon kind of has played against 5 out of the 6 Pokemon of Sandudu. The only obnoxiously bad matchup it has is the Medicham.
Yeah.
Medicham absolutely hardwalls, let's say, the Obstagoon, and it's the same for the Venusaur as well. Venusaur absolutely gets hardwalled by the Charizard. So this is going to be a match where who gets alignment and how are they going to do it?
Doesn't Venusaur even outpace the Charizard to a Sludge Bomb?
No, seven
right?
for 7 for the Sludge Bomb. First Blast Burn is 6, but then considering the wing attack damage, you just shield once, throw Dragon Claw, farm down, and then suddenly you got to deal with like a 70 energy Charizard. You don't want to deal with that.
That is true, but I mean the first Blast Burn should be 7, so if you are going for 1 Vine Whip advantage in the no shields, you should reach the Sludge Bomb faster.
Yes.
And that is a way to still flip this bad matchup.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Charizard will have to rely a lot on shields.
Yeah.
And Chroma will have to rely a lot on maneuvering his Pokemon around the fact that I need some energy advantage. I need to get it from here, from there, and how he's going to get it is going to be the highlight of this game.
But to be fair, there are not only Pokemon that are hard losing to the Venusaur. Something like a Lickitung can also fight back. Licks do add up, and Body Slams also deal a lot of damage if this is a Shadow Venusaur, which I don't think it is.
No, it is not a Shadow Venusaur, so it's going to be fairly bulky as well. I mean, it's not the bulkiest Pokemon, but when you compare it to a Shadow Venusaur, it's going to be fairly bulky. So, I don't know if you noticed, just a few seconds ago, Dudu was opting for the Dex pose to sit, and he's sitting comfortably in his chair and wobbling it around. He's here to have fun, but look at him, he's absolutely focused. He just wants to get this win out of the way.
Yes, so looking at Chroma's team as well, Araquanid. Do you think that this is going to be really good? We can maybe expect a Medicham as an Obstagoon answer, and Araquanid just eats that, right?
Yep. I think Araquanid has a lot of play. And only thing that it needs to look out for, technically, are 3 Pokemon here, which is a Stunfisk, Lantern, and Lickitung. But Araquanid does have access to Bug Buzz, which
Yeah.
does a lot of damage to Lantern, which also does a lot of damage to Lickitung, with a chance for a defense fall as well. And against Stunfisk, if it is running Bubble Beam, then again it has played. So you just keep constantly Bubble Beaming it down. So it will be a game of debuff, how many shields you want to invest in the Araquanid, and can you get a shield advantage or enough shield advantage so that you can Bubble Beam your way out of that Stunfisk matchup.
Yeah, to be honest, I really want to see this Araquanid because I think the design of this Pokemon is absolutely fantastic. It gives me Emmy Weedle vibes. Emmy Weedle winning the World Championships in the senior division with it. Fantastic Pokemon. And, I mean, we have to talk about the giraffe in the room, right? I want to see Girafarig happening here.
Yep. Girafarig has also an access to Thunderbolt as well. So,
yeah,
so technically it's not really... Like, if you have a Girafarig locked against Charizard, you're not in a bad matchup.
No, and
but looks like the judge has given their thumbs up, so we should be ready to go. Let's see, have they locked in?
I hope so. They have had plenty of time, you know, to choose their teams. You don't want to overthink it as well, because sometimes when you think too much about a matchup, then you're getting a headache and you start doing stupid decisions.
Exactly. Here is game one. Let's see what happens. Chroma against Sundudu. What do you think the leads are going to be? Chroma flaunting that Sparkles, and it is a Girafarig into a Stunfisk. Double kick Girafarig is going to do super effective damage. Of course, it is not. It does not have stab, but do look at those double kicks adding up.
Yeah, and we are going to see Psychic Fans. Double kick actually dealing a lot of damage against this Stunfisk, but the charged attacks don't really deal too much to the Stunfisk. You want to throw a Psychic Fangs as well. Oh, taking the Rock Slide bait on the side of Chroma. This makes for a big advantage on Sandudu's side already.
Yeah, exactly. Taking the Rock Slide bait is going to be costly, but here comes the Earthquake. This Earthquake is going unshielded. So much energy on that Girafarig, and it gets taken out. Oh, all that energy. That was 100 energy that goes to nothing. And here comes the Araquanid. Araquanid is trying to do quite a bit of damage, but these bug bites are resisted, and here comes a Rock Slide. This is going to be super effective damage.
And I'm really surprised because Chroma has the Obstagoon on his back and she shields a Rock Slide. Yes, it is super effective, but Rock Slide doesn't deal too much damage to the Araquanid. Oh, and we have a fantastic catch right here. However, that means that the Galarian Stunfisk can easily be switched out into a Medicham.
Speaking of fantastic catches, that was a very good one, but unfortunately, as you said, this is not where you want to be. We talked about this at the start of the game. This Obstagoon does not like this. Sundudu has 2 shields. He's like, I'm not going to use them. I don't need them.
And Sundudu, I think he kind of knew that there wasn't a Venusaur on the lineup of Chroma, because none of these core Pokemon that we were talking about for this matchup are to be seen anywhere.
Exactly. That was a very good prediction by Sundudu. Now here comes a Psychic. Psychic again is still going to do a ton of damage. It's still neutral, but it's the same attack, same type attack bonus. So this is not looking good for Chroma. As I told you, Dudu wants to do that 2 shield flex. Here comes the Bubble Beam. He calls it, and this will kind of debuff the Medicham. But still, there's still a lot of Pokemon on Dudu's side, and this Araquanid is going to have to make magic happen to go through all of these.
Yeah, that is indeed true. We are using all of our energy to go for this. Oh, and we don't even want to reveal the Lantern, which kind of makes sense, to be honest, because you don't want to give your opponent extra information, even though that would have been a fantastic matchup for Sandudu as well to assert dominance over Chroma.
Yep, but it's a fairly bulky Pokemon, so there might be a chance that either Dudu has the 2 shield flex to opt, yes, and unfortunately he cannot 2 shield flex anymore, pulls up a shield, making sure he gets to this Rock Slide, frantically tapping at it, and he gets to it, taking this Araquanid out, making sure that Chroma does not know what's at the back.
It was a very smart choice to try and not look cool on stream, but to just rather not reveal information of what you brought in the back. Chroma losing this one. Do you think after taking this Rock Slide with the Araquanid, he wishes that he didn't shield it?
I think to be honest, the main turning point in the game was the no shield of the Earthquake, and also not throwing those Psychic Fangs, because how Psychic Fang works is that it debuffs your opponent's defense, and then you do suddenly more damage with your double kick. So that was the play. Throw it as fast as you get it, and keep double kicking. You know? Well, you know what I feel bad about in the Giraffrig's animation? If you don't know, do you know double, right? The Pokemon's animation is that it turns around and it kicks you with its back feet. I was hoping that it would happen with Giraffrig as well, because it has 4 legs, and that's what I would expect.
Yeah, and it has 2 faces as well.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
would look at each face every time there was a double kick.
Yeah, so I'm kind of disappointed in Giraffrig's animation.
But I mean, the little problem with Psychic Fang and Double Kick is that if you're running a 3-turn fast attack, you have to be careful when you are throwing your attack. So I think you get the first Psychic Fang after 4, and this is not when you want to throw against a 2-turn attacker. So you want to charge up 1 more Double Kick, or you want to use 1 more Double Kick, and then throw the Psychic Fang, so you don't give your opponent any free turns.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And based on this, I would want to know how Chroma is going to adapt, because the team of 3 that Sandudu bought was relatively weak to Venusaur. So I want to see if he wants to bring the Venusaur, and I want to know if he can overcome the absolute flurry of blows that is Obstagoon took from the Medicham to kind of have the courage to play it. Because game 1 was anti-Obstagoon from Sandudu,
Yep.
so and we want to see how they adapt. Let's see, game 2 is already here.
Yeah, and I mean, Chroma made a rather big mistake in trying to catch something with an Obstagoon, because Obstagoon has crazy bad matchups sometimes, so you don't want to be the first one who switches, and that's now we are seeing Giraffrig versus the Charizard, and now we are seeing an immediate throw of the Psychic Fangs.
Yep. You want to try and debuff the Charizard as soon as possible, and Sandudu unfortunately makes a mistake. He thought this was a Stomp and then calls and then shields it, but it was a Psychic Fang. Chroma looks in a very, very good position here. If he shields this, unfortunately the Charizard might get to another Dragon Claw, but he goes for the shield here. Let's see, he'll be frantically tapping his screen. Does he get there? No, again, he does not want to throw these charge moves.
He should have immediately tapped on the Thunderbolt, because it was ready. I know using 1 double kick makes it so that your opponent does not have the answer immediately, or doesn't get a free fast attack, but you are throwing a Thunderbolt here, so it will be shielded. So 2 shields on this Charizard. However, the Venusaur is in the back waiting, and you can go in with your Lantern.
Exactly. And Charizard takes out the Giraffrig, and let's see what he comes in. Is it a Water Gun Lantern? No, it is a Spark Lantern, so it's going to take a lot of time to get this Charizard out of the sky, but he wants none of it. He does not want to take that Plasma and throws that Surf immediately. Surf is a super effective charge attack and takes that Charizard out of the sky. Here comes the Stunfisk. It is a Water Gun Lantern, so this matchup is unfortunately not as straightforward, but them having no shields kind of makes it advantage Stunfisk.
Yep, that is true. The Earthquake is going to deal a lot of damage. However, as soon as the Earthquake comes out, you are going to be able to... We are trying to catch this with the... Wow, this is a bad matchup actually for the Venusaur if we are in the no shields, because the Psychic is just going to take out the Venusaur. Everything is flipping around here.
Yep, I think Chroma using 2 shields kind of put him in a very, very big disadvantage.
Yep.
Now that all the charge moves, charge attacks from the Pokemon are going to do super effective damage, and they're going to take this Venusaur for a ride. And again, just like game number 1, just like round number 1, we have another Medicham Psychicking another Pokemon back into their Pokeball.
Perfect counting by Sandudu as well. We have seen it before. He is now just throwing Chroma, miscounting a little bit, over farming, and trying to go for the serve on the charge attack priority event, which is unnecessary damage on the Lantern. It is of course going to take out the Medicham in the process, but there is an Earthquake ready on the Galarian Stunfisk, and it is going to deal a lot of damage.
Man, the Earthquake comes through, and this Lantern has nothing to hide behind, and that should be it. That's done and dusted. It is over, and that's how the cookie crumbles. However you want to say it. It's over. It's a 2-0, an absolute dominant win for Sandudu.
Yeah, that is how the Lantern crumbles sometimes, especially when you can't use a shield against the Galarian Stunfisk's Earthquake.
Do we have a cookie Pokemon? I think there's a cookie Pokemon, right?
I mean, we have a little cake.
Yeah, the cake Pokemon.
Yeah, but that one is not in Pokemon Go yet, so we don't in fact have it. A cookie one? I don't know if there is one.
Yeah, me neither. That's why I'm asking you.
I mean, to be honest, there is 1,000 Pokemon by now, so sometimes you can even miss one. But huge congratulations to Sandu for advancing this early.
Yeah, great set of games there, and absolutely, I think some of these games came down to the fact that they were, the opponent Chroma was a bit hesitant to throw his charge moves, and then Sandudu managed to make alignment. I told you, right? In the end, there will be a bit of an alignment issue here, and that's exactly what Sandudu did. Okay, I want to do this, and so I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that, and he executed it perfectly.
Perfectly explained by you as well, Avi. This and that, sometimes you just have to do it. But what I really liked as well is he turned his bad matchups into good matchups as well, investing 2 shields early, getting 2 shields out from this Girafarig. I mean, Chroma really wanted to showcase this Girafarig, and unfortunately it just didn't work out that well.
Yeah. What I'm going to do now is once this is over, I'm going to go and look it up on my phone. Can Girafarig beat a Shadow Charizard straight Psychic Fang in the 2 shields? Because he did throw a Thunderbolt. He did not go for the Psychic Fang. And maybe that could have flipped the match.
That is true. Also, what he could have done is, as they were both on 1 shields, he had a Thunderbolt ready, and he decided to go for one more double kick. So that way, Charizard reached the Dragon Claw before. If he just immediately went to the Thunderbolt saying, okay, you're going to get a free fast attack off, I don't care, then, I mean, then he could have gotten another shield out of the Charizard and then take it out with the Lantern going in with shield advantage, which would have made every matchup for the Venusaur a lot better.
Yep, I think that was the way to go, perfectly explained by you. That was Chroma's perspective and what he had to do. That was perfectly explained. So, of course, as I said, when you're on stage, it's another feeling, I think. And sometimes even good, not just good, even great players make mistakes.
I would have done it as well, to be honest.
That's why we're sitting here and not there.
It's too focused on, okay, this is the perfect alignment. I have to throw after 1 3-turn fast attack, and now,
I made a mistake.
Big oof moment. Sometimes that just happens. When you're too focused on getting the mechanics correct, you know, then you can miss out on those small opportunities where you have to think outside the box to just win those games, and sometimes you lose them.
Yeah, and that's what separates okay players from good players and great players. Speaking about great players, we have the interview ready for the winner of this match, Sandudu.
Welcome in, everyone. We talked about Dex earlier as a French top beller, but we have another French top beller here. May I introduce to you the winner of our previous round, Sandudu. Sandudu, congratulations on your win. How are you feeling?
Thank you very much. Hello, Martijn. Well, I feel really good. To be honest, I feel really good. It's only my second time on stream. First one didn't go well.
In Liverpool, can you tell us about that?
Yeah. I mean, I really wanted to use Shadow Charizard this time. And my first opponent did run Bastion.
Ooh, I've been there.
Of course. Yeah, I know. Of course, it ended up locked on the Bastion and I lost. And I didn't want to run Shadow Charizard anymore again. So I didn't run it in the EUIC. But then for this tournament, I was like, I really like Shadow Charizard. I played in GBL, trained a lot with him. I might give it another shot. And it went well. Used it in one game today and it went well. So,
what did you think of the Girafarig pick that your opponent had? That's quite an unusual pick, right?
Well, it is. I played some grassroots games recently with the Girafarig. That was good, but it was running Confusion.
Yeah.
Confusion and Psychic Fang and another move which could be returned, which I suppose was the case of this Girafarig.
It was purified. Yeah.
But you know, everybody can trick you. So I was like a bit scared of the Thunderbolt, especially when I had my Zard locked on it.
Do you know the full moveset of Girafarig?
Psychic Fang, Thunderbolt,
there was
return, and
I think Stomp. I think it was Stomp.
That's Stomp as well. But I was expecting Confusion. So when I led my Stunfisk on the Girafarig first game, I was like, oh, that's good. And then I saw the double kick and said, I have absolutely no clue how are the counts for double kick. So I was very, very scared with Shadow Charizard on game 2, but I was confident on that if I was able to win the lead, my backline was like basically RPS.
So what I saw was that the Obstagoon specifically was quite good against your team, right?
Yeah,
it can beat the
really
Sableye, the Galarian Stunfisk. It even can beat Charizard.
Yeah, exactly.
Charizard throws a Blast Burn and, you know...
Yeah, I'm a little bit stuffed to choose the Obstagoon, but I mean, with the new move update, it was really tough to build a team like when we had no idea about the trend of the meta.
Yeah.
So every time I was building something, I felt like I was weak to too weak to Medi, too weak to Sablai, that I was like very confident that it will be everywhere. Of Sagun, I was like, maybe if Medi starts being on every team, people will be afraid of running up Sagun. But I feel like with Medi on my team, I have like some kind of bench pressure, enough bench pressure against it to maybe win it. But yeah, you never know. He used it in my opponent used it in game 1. So
Now that you're talking about the new moveset updates, what exactly did you expect for this tournament?
well, I expected no Trevenant. Obviously,
I agree.
It was nerfed.
I agree.
But I was dealing that maybe some other grass types such as Venusaur, especially Shadow Venusaur that my opponent ran, could rise again. But then the absence of Trevenant means Lantern would be everywhere. I was like, will people still bring Flyers? Will people bring Noctowl? Yeah, I was a bit skeptical, but like with only 3 or 4 days, it really like catching up everybody by surprise, and we have to do our best. Like it's exciting.
Yeah,
it's exciting. We spend a lot of time with the French people trying to build our teams.
I can imagine. Like, I feel like currently there's a lot of old meta that can be used, like from previous seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's like new Pokemon that are somewhat introduced with like Quagsire, right? That are very viable right now. Speaking of the French players, can you tell us a little bit like how you got there? I believe you got there with like a couple.
Yeah,
of
we were a bunch of we were like 11 or 12 in like some kind of hotel. Some of them went by car together. I had like quite a journey. I was like studying abroad for the last semester, and I went
how long
home.
was it?
Oh, very good, very good. I was in Greece. It was nice weather. Everything was good. Good food. I arrived in France on Thursday evening, and I took the train yesterday at 12. So it was quite a journey. But I was really eager to compete in Torino this weekend. So.
Is there any one of those friends that you know, we're on the interview right now, that you would like to give a shout out?
Yeah, I mean, I love all of them, but if I had to give like a special shout out, I will give it to my teammates, my grassroots teammates. So a bunch of them. Noxious, he's here for the first time, first ever tournament. I hope he does well. He deserves it. DC Volpix, Tragicomics, everything. And my other friend from Nico Giro as well. Don't forget Nico Giro.
I know Nico Giro. He knocked me out at the European International Championship in 2020.
He still talks about it.
Of course.
No, and the others that are very close friends, Dex, that you know really well, and Arsnio.
He actually already lost one round. Yeah, he faced a Whimsicott. He did not prepare for.
Arsnio?
Yeah, no, Dex.
Dex lost?
Yeah. It happens to the best of us, right?
Yeah.
I can talk about it. Well, I wouldn't call myself one of the best, but I've also had the experience of going 0-2 myself. So
I won't say I'm one of the best, but I did lost round 1 in a bunch of tournaments already.
You know how it feels. As this is the last tournament of this season, right? How would you approach it for next season?
I'm really excited. To be fair, like I was studying for the last year, so it was quite difficult to move around, especially to go abroad. I feel like I should have a, which is pretty strange, but since I'm working now, be working next year, should have like more. It would be more easy for me to adapt my schedule and to go to more events. But I really want to go to events in Germany, the Netherlands, maybe.
Netherlands. I'm from there. Yeah.
Visit you in the Netherlands. But I feel like these events with the community is like so amazing. It's so amazing to come and see all the friends we met online for the past 2 or 3 years. So yeah.
So here's a little bit of a more difficult question. If you know you wouldn't do well at a tournament, but all your friends are going there, would you still go? Is the community that good for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a competitor, so I'll be a bit like disappointed, but I think I could go still, because I mean, basically all the tournaments I did 4 of them, I think. I've never performed as good as I would like, but I still enjoy it. I'm still going back every time. I'm excited. Can't wait for the next event. So yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, right. Because how often do you see like your grassroots teammates, right? France is a pretty big country in Europe.
Well,
you might be spread out.
Even some of them, I live in the Paris area. Some of them are from here. Tonton Batteuse, I didn't shout out him, but Tonton Batteuse
our UIC champion.
Yeah, he's not my grassroots teammate. He beat me all the time, so. So bunch of them are living in Paris. So sometimes I see them, but I was in the south of France for the first part of the year, and I was close to Arsenal. So we were seeing each other quite some time, going out and.
Yeah, I think that's something pretty cool about this, right? That you meet people online from like all over the place.
Yeah.
Could be in North America. Like I know a lot of European and North American people are friends, competitors. And I think that goes for this as well, right? If you know someone from like a city, I think that's the most convenient thing for myself. When I went to the States, there's no people in the States, and it just can guide me around. I really like that myself.
I was jealous of that.
Yeah.
Did you manage
to see some of it?
Jumping Lemur.
Jumping Lemur, one of your grassroots teammates as well. Oh no,
no, his teammate Alvaro, we met in London. It was really.
Oh yeah,
nice.
of course, he went
guy,
to London.
Really
also just for community, right? All the way from the States.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we basically became real life friends. It's what it became. So it's amazing. I'm thankful to the game for bringing us all of that. So.
Well, you know who else is amazing? It's you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Martijn.
Thank you so much for this interview.
Hope I'm coming back today.
let's hope so. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
In your next rounds. Hopefully we'll see you again. How about we go back to the casters?
Welcome back, trainers. We are here live in Turin. Joining me is my fellow co-caster, Lundberger, and she would like to, I think, take a few moments to introduce yourself really quickly?
Oh, sure. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I am Lundberger. You can also call me Amanda. We're all friends here, and very excited was watching the last matchups and have to congratulate Sandudu for that win. Like you said, he has been competing in a couple of them, and I know he's been a bit discouraged about how he's been playing before, but a pretty decisive win there for him, and off to a good start.
Yeah, Sandudu is a good battler, but what's coming in next is also another great set of battles, and that is going to be between Joppy and Frank the Tank. Frank the Tank is quite well known in the community. He's always watching streams, playing GBL, but Joppy is not. So if you look at the Italian community published a blog post yesterday where they talked about battlers to watch, and Joppy is one of them. So I'm really looking forward to how this is going to work out.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the name Joppy. I think he's done a couple of grassroots tournaments as well, and this is sort of like an Italian versus an Italian here. So we have to see. This is the second one that we've actually featured on stream so far. I believe the first ones were also Italians. But of course, this is what you're going to expect when we're here in Torino.
And all these battles were really, really good. I think, and also very dominant matchups as well. We saw one trainer absolutely showing how dominant they can be in these matchups, and the other trainer trying to find ways to make the dominant trainer make a mistake.
And what I really liked about this as well is that even though they were dominant wins, they were always quite interesting picks overall, right? I mean, so the first team we saw was a completely Shadow team. I only saw that at EUIC from Mother of Shadows, so I think Mother of Shadows is now looking and saying, wait, someone is taking my brand.
He must be really, really proud. He's now the Mother of Shadows, Shadow Dragons and Shadow whatevers. but I really like the fact that we saw Girafarig showcase. It's not really a Pokemon that you ever see in any of the tournaments, but it did get a move update quite a while ago. It got access to Double Kick, Psychic Fangs, Stomp was already there, and then Thunderbolt. So just looking at it, it kind of makes a little bit of sense to run it, because against the Steel Ice types, perfect coverage.
Yeah, I liked Chroma's team. He had kind of a double pseudo fighter line, right? He had the Obstagoon and he also had the Girafarig, which I thought, I actually agree with Dudu. I thought it was going to be on Confusion as well, but Inadequance told me, no, I bet it's going to be on Double Kick.
Yeah, we were in the stage and I was like, it's going to be Double Kick, Psychic Fang, Thunderbolt.
Yeah, you called it.
It was easy to call when I see it on the screen. And another key aspect, I think, of these two games were that you saw a spicy team going up against a meta team. And I know Bibelicious agrees with me, but he does not fully run meta. But he, in his interview previously, said meta is meta for a reason.
Right.
And that this is exactly why, because some of these Pokemon are so good with their stat product, the access to moves, and how they can flip bad matchups. Meta is meta for a reason, unless somebody plays Spice and wins tournaments.
We're going to reuse the joke that I always use, and Medicham is also meta for a reason. Do you think that because there are so many now more targets for a fighter using actual fighting type moves, Medicham is usually always running counter, but the preferred charge attacks seem to be Ice Punch and Psychic in these tournaments. Do you think maybe in this tournament we might see a more power-up punch or perhaps dynamic punch Medichams?
I think my opinion would be very, very divided in this. You know me, I for a long time. I think a fighter should do fighting type damage. Medicham with Dynamic Punch is a good Pokemon, but just in a tournament setting, and especially when you have, like, let's say, I think there will be a rise of Azumarill, there will be a rise of Cresselia, so maybe Ice Punch, Dynamic Punch might be a decent way to go, but you saw how much Psychic did in that matchup. And if you look at Inadequence's picks, he also talks about Venusaur being there, and you absolutely need Psychic to flip that match.
That's true, we saw it in that very last matchup as well. If Sandudu was running the Medicham with Dynamic Punch, it would not have been able to one-shot that Venusaur.
Neither in game number 1, because the Psychic took out the Charizard.
That's true.
But an Ice Punch would not have.
A Dynamic Punch might have at that range, to be honest.
Ooh, it would have been really, really, really close. And I think Medicham as a fighter is one of the most diverse, has one of the most diverse set of moves in Pokemon Go as well. But as I said, another reason why you want it on Psychic is just that people expect it. So it's nice to know a move that, okay, they know this is going to happen, and I think that gives you a comfort factor that everybody knows what this will do, so they will know and try to shield it as well. But
that's a good point.
Yeah, running Dynamic Punch kind of is like, it's a very good move because I know what I usually do when I'm playing GBL. I usually run Dynamic Punch on my Medicham, so I do 8 counters.
Take notes.
I do 8 counters and CMP and charge attack on the Galarian Stunfisk, and they never shield because they think it's a Psychic and it's not going to knock them out. So in a blind format, it makes a little bit more sense, but in a Show 6, I think Psychic is the way to go.
You also made a good point, because we see so many of these Pokemon often, since Medicham is at the top, you do have some sort of, like, a disadvantage if you are running a charge attack that is a fighting type move, because most likely the other Medicham will be running the Psychic, and even though that is not doing a lot of damage, it's going to be doing more than a fighting type move against each other.
Exactly, and we really saw this in, I think, Bochum, where Chun ran a Dynamic Punch and Ice Punch, and he was hard-walled by EJB's own Medicham, which was running Psychic. Dynamic Punch is a great move, it's an amazing move, but Psychic is just better.
Okay, well, we'll have to see what these two Italian trainers are choosing to run here. Looks like one of them quite not sure how to put on a headset. All these alternate styles of how to do these.
He looks like that Pokemon, Cosmog.
Oh yes, there's Cosmog cosplay going on from Frank the Tank there on the right-hand side, running something that we see from the new move updates here. We have a Quagsire, the Venusaur, Medicham, that Alolan Sand / Noctowl, and Umbreon.
I'm kind of getting disappointed with these picks because Leo is now taking a huge lead with his Quag and Sandslash. But I really, really want to look at Joppy's team because the Cresselia Umbreon core is an absolute monster of a core. It's only biggest disadvantage is the Registeel, but looking at Joppy's team, he has a Charizard, he has a Stunfisk, and also probably a Water Gun Lantern to deal with the Water Gun Lantern and Medicham to deal with the Registeel. So it's like 4 Pokemon that's going to try and scare away the Registeel. Just take us over Frank the Tank's team as well.
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, I don't know if people anticipated. We've seen already 3 Shadow Charizards of all 3 matches, so I would say that maybe that is actually the overall winner. Do you think Joppy was thinking with all these Ice-type Pokemon getting update that perhaps it's time for this Fire type to really start shining? The unfortunate part for Shadow Charizard, though, is since it does take advantage of the wing attack buff, it only does that Fire type when it's doing its charge attacks.
Yeah, I think just looking at Frank the Tank's team, the only real bad matchup, there is no bad matchup for the Shadow Charizard, right? The Blast Burns hurt on the Quagsire. Actually, it really hurts on the Quagsire. I think if you can get the bait with the Dragon Claw, you will get to the Blast Burn to knock out the Quagsire. So it's going to be a game of, can I catch that Charizard on, believe it or not, the Alolan Sandslash.
Right.
That's the one semi-decent counter he has for the Charizard.
It's also because the Alolan Sandslash is just so spammy, right? So it gets to its charge move so quickly, and I mean, Charizard, we've seen it already. It is very frail in the Great League and does not want to take those charge attacks very often. Fortunately, you only have 2 shields, but I also like the pairing on Joppy's side. not only could he potentially do the Cresselia Umbreon, he could also do the Charizard Umbreon, and that is a good core overall because Umbreon is always seems to be used as a third or maybe even fourth shield. It's like a big cat-like sponge for a lot of players.
Yep, and it's a perfect setup Pokemon, right? Like yesterday I was team building and my team was our team that I built for you was kind of similar to this as well, but with the concept that use Umbreon, stay in neutral matchups, like just against Frank the Tank, just lead Umbreon, stay in there, you will play the Zero Shields, you're going to get a Pokemon to a range where you can kind of farm it down with Charizard, and suddenly Frank the Tank is in trouble.
That's very, very true. It's going to be interesting. I believe that these players, obviously, since they're both Italian, have maybe even played against each other before, have done some scrimmaging, and that's also somewhat of an advantage, but also disadvantage, right? When you play against someone that you already know.
Yeah, but we saw that in Malmo as well when Dane played against his teammate, and that was it was like I knew in the interview, it was like, yeah, I knew his IVs, I knew I wouldn't survive, I had to do this. Like, so they pre-prepare.
Yeah, I think he had said, yeah, when the Umbreon came out into my Medicham, I know that his Umbreon actually beats my Medicham. I know that his Galarian Sunfist has the highest attack possible, so it's going to always win charge attack priority against any other Galarian Sunfist. It's like, yes, you're taking these little bits of information. Speaking of bits of information, it's not the screen that was shown now, but I really liked in game 1 that Sandudu did not reveal his third Pokemon. I think this is something that's really important for players. If you have an advantage, you want to keep as many advantages as you can, not let your opponent get too much insight into what Pokemon you're choosing, your play style, or even the charge attacks that you're using.
I think it's a strategy that a lot of the top players use, is that, okay, if I can win not showing one Pokemon, I will. And that's always great because the next game you could lead that Pokemon, the opponent would not prepare for it. And it's a thinking process as well in the end. Like, you know, when you go to battle, if you go to game number 2, you can walk us through this because I know your thinking process. You'll be like, okay, he bought no, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to try and put...
I'm not familiar with the stats of blah, 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 blah. Could you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yes. I can say blah, and then there's a little bit more blah, and then a little bit more.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, it's basically see what the 3 Pokemon the opponent bought. Do you have a Pokemon that can deal with these 3 Pokemon? And then you try to use it, and then you get a hard counter.
Yeah, of course. These two battlers really deciding what they're going to do here. Even though we've only shown 3 matches on the screen, there are quite a few players advancing fairly far into the bracket. If you guys are interested as well, make sure to type in !bracket into the chat, and you can see the tournament link as well and see all the players who have already done. But enough about them. We're getting straight into this battle here. We are going to have a Medicham versus a Noctowl.
Ooh, this is a kind of, I call it a neutral matchup. Yes, it's a fighter against Flyer, but Medicham does have access to this super effective Ice Punches. And this is critical. Let's see who wins charge attack priority. The Medicham goes for it immediately, and unfortunately, Frank the Tank does not want to find out, so he waits a turn and goes for that wing attack.
Yes, most of the time Noctowls don't win charge attack priority unless it's a very attack-weighted Noctowl, but Frank Tank, knowing that he most likely doesn't have that, going ahead, looks like he tried to do the Sky Attack, but realized Umbreon came in and went for the last-minute Shadow Ball, which is not going to be effective at all on this Umbreon.
What a move by Joppy there, catching that resisted Shadow Ball onto that Umbreon. And as I said, this Umbreon is now the damage sponge. It has energy. It's going to absolutely set the tone for the whole game. Here comes the Last Resort. Last Resort is not resisted, and hence the move of choice for Umbreon versus Umbreon.
Yes, and the Umbreon got the Last Resort in one of the community days. There's also the Psychic Community Day move Umbreon. It doesn't seem to be used very often in these tournaments, being Last Resort being, like you said, more neutral across the board here. The Umbreon now firing off another Last Resort, and we have to also notice that Frank has a shiny Umbreon as well. I'm a little bit jealous.
Yeah, Frank has a shiny Umbreon and it's really cute. Let's step back one more time, like every regional where we see an Umbreon mirror and you talk about the Umbreon jumping on its paws and giggling.
I think it's so cute. Every time a little charge attack goes off, it takes it like a pro, but its little paws go up in the air. We're about to see it right here on Joppy's here. Oof!
There you go. And coming in with the Medicham, knowing that the switch clock is misaligned and absolutely going to do a little bit more damage, forcing that Umbreon to throw this foul play onto the Medicham. Foul play is neutral just because of the psychic type of the Medicham. Medicham is now going to take a lot of energy, but here comes Frank the Tank with an aggressive swap in to throw the Sky Attack.
What a combination play here, throwing that foul play and then being able to take out that Medicham with that Sky Attack there. And now we'll have to see what Joppy chooses to do. Their switch timers are completely misaligned at this point, waiting till the very very last second, coming in with that Charizard. Still 2 shields left on both trainers and already at the Dragon Claw, but going up a little bit past and about to take the Sky Attack, but no, Charizard putting up that shield.
Yep, Charizard is going to put up the shield, and he is potentially looking at wing attacking this Noctowl down. The switch clock is not up, so this Noctowl has nowhere to go except give energy to this hungry Charizard.
And if you think that Charizard is hungry, it is definitely finding a snack in that last thing here, because we still have a Venusaur that could potentially come in. No, Umbreon going to go ahead and soak up the rest of this damage. Blast Burn, if you want to tank it on anything, you're going to tank it on the Umbreon, but it looks like Frank the Tank knows it as well, choosing to let that Umbreon go down.
Frank the Tank's Umbreon was not tanky enough to tank that Blast Burn from that Charizard. And here we see this Venusaur at the back. Venusaur is a grass-type Pokemon, so it's going to take super effective damage from the wing attacks. Here comes the Dragon Claw being shielded, and Charizard already is at another move.
Yeah, already at another move, forcing Frank Tank to use both of these shields here. Second Dragon Claw going through. Venusaur's Frenzy Plants, I mean, still hit the Charizard fairly hard, even though it's resistant. It's because the, let's face it, community moves are just so good. Already at 2, catching here, and not even catching, going for a combination play. Gioppi says, Frank the Tank, you did that before. I'll show you how I can do it as well. Throwing this foul play, which could be enough at this point to take that Venusaur down.
Perfect execution by Gioppi, using, showing how showcasing exactly how you want to use Umbreon in this meta, and I think there will be a lot of Umbreons in the meta. That is why it was one of my picks.
I think overall, honestly, a big turning point happened very early on in that game, catching that Shadow Ball, and you saw Frank the Tank. Originally, he was planning to go to Sky Attack. He saw that his opponent swapped out, and I think he just like panicked, pressed without realizing the typing that came in. And yeah, I mean, I've done it before too. I know I know what that's like.
I've seen you do it before as well, and you've seen me do it before as well. We all do these mistakes, and I think Frank the Tank now really has to, you know, take a step back, bring a little bit focus into his game, and then try to, you know, like relax a little bit. Okay, this happened. Why it happened? Because I threw the Shadow Ball onto the Umbreon. Because if that was not the case, if the Sky Attack went in, then his Umbreon would be in much better position in that matchup. So it came down to pretty critical instances, but Gioppi absolutely played that Shadow Charizard perfectly. As I told you, use Umbreon as a damage sponge, whatever is left, farm it down, and then blow everything up.
That's absolutely right. I did like Frank the Tank's tactic, though, of using the Venusaur, because if you look at the team overall, Venusaur does pretty well against everything besides that Charizard. I mean, I would say even the Cresselia, because most of the time Cresselia in Great League is going to be running Grass Knot and Moonblast, two moves that are not that effective against the Venusaur here. It's only those Psycho Cuts, which don't do a lot of damage, to be honest. So Venusaur really, and it even can hit back to the Shadow Charizard. So I don't think it was a bad pick there. It was just completely misaligned. And if Charizard has 2 shields and Venusaur is pretty much your only Pokemon left, you're in a world of hurt.
And we saw that Venusaur couldn't do anything. But you're right, Venusaur is has a good matchup against most of Gioppi's team. But again, it comes down to the fact of what I was explaining earlier, is that yes, Venusaur can win that matchup, but with how much HP? How much are you willing to give to that Charizard to try and win the game? Because you don't want to give anything to the Charizard. Like, especially it's the team composition that Frank the Tank is running. Talking about team compositions, we have a Noctowl into a Charizard read. This is a bait-dependent matchup.
Let's see if they're going to go for heavy-hitting moves or baits to start out here. Most likely at the beginning, they're just wing attacking. Already up past the Dragon Claw, almost to a Blast Burn, and Frank the Tank saying, you know what, I know I get to this beforehand. I'm going to at least make you take a shield.
Yep, and that's exactly what Gioppi does, preserving all that HP on the Charizard, throwing that shield up. Let's see if he goes for a bait. No, he does not. He's over farming, gets to 2 Blast Burns and throws the Blast Burn. This is going to do a ton of damage. Frank the Tank knowing I want nothing to do with this and shielding it up.
I think this is a really smart move because so the Umbreon can obviously tank 1, but it doesn't want to tank 2 Blast Burns, right? So preserving as much health on one of the tankiest Pokemon in the Great League is a great way to start. Already up to all this energy, being able to throw the last resort onto Gioppi's Umbreon that comes in, and now he's a little bit ahead.
Yep, he's a little bit ahead. The 2 things that you need to take account of as competitors is that he's a little bit ahead, and also the switch clocks are misaligned. So you can come in with your Noctowl and try to make a snipe like he did game number 1. But for now, we are going to watch these 2 beautiful Pokemon trying to get an advantage in this matchup for their trainers.
Yeah, it is one of the more long, drawn-out matchups, but for me, it's perfect because they're so cute. The last resort coming through again, and going ahead and charging up a little more energy. You'll notice that these trainers don't want to throw exactly when they get the move, because every time that you throw your charge attack, you're allowing your opponent to throw their fast attack. So they're trying not to let them get too much advantage overall.
Yeah. and Frank the Tank's Umbreon is it's convincingly ahead in energy, as you saw from the energy he has left over. And this last resort might force him to want to swap to Noctowl because it looks like it's in Sky Tank range, but he's still staying in and he wants to get this Umbreon out of the way. But here comes another last resort from Juppy, and this is one of the most longest Umbreon mirrors I've casted, and it is exhilarating.
And the next one going in, and you're exactly right before, now coming back in, trying to catch a move there, catching that foul play, which Noctowl at this much health, not going to be doing that much damage. The big problem is that if we remember that Charizard is full of energy in the back. It is coming back in now, already at 2 Dragon Claws or a Blast Burn and a half, but forcing Juppy to use both shields now on Sky attacks from the Noctowl.
Yep, the Charizard pulls up the shield, but again, this Charizard is going to be an absolute menace for Frank the Tank. Here comes the Dragon Claw. Will Tank shield it, or will he opt for the safe? I'm not going to shield it. I'm going to come in with a Sand Slash and farm this Charizard down, but whatever he does, he's not going to like what is at the back. Juppy has his name in cards.
Yes, this Blast Burn would be able to knock out at least 3 Sand Slash. So going ahead and using that Protect Shield, but absolutely right, there is that Medicham lurking in the back. We'll have to see how these two play it out. Looks like it's going to go ahead and get Shadow Claw down before even reaching a Dragon Claw, and probably in comes Medicham to say hi.
Let's see what happens here. In comes Medicham, and Frank the Tank knows it's over.
Yes, I mean, look how fast that's going down. Going ahead and throwing this drill run, we're going to see how much damage this does. We have to remember the shadows do 20% more damage, but because they also take 20% more, those counters are doing so much damage to the Umbreon. A combination play!
Yes, combination play, the foul play comes in, but is this enough? Because I don't think it is. The Medicham will be happy to take this move, and he's going to... Ooh! Goes for the charge attack priority there, throws the Ice Punch, knowing that the Umbreon had 2 moves stored, and this absolutely would secure the game for Juppy. In comes the Sand Slash. Let's see how many counters does it last. It does not, and this is over. GG.
Wow, wonderful gameplay, and really great energy management as well. This is something that, like you said before, advanced players really know how to do. Juppy remembering how much energy was left on that Umbreon that Frank the Tank had, and being like, I need to throw this Ice Punch, because if I don't, my Medicham is going to get knocked out. He had 2 foul plays, knowing that I win charge attack priority, it's got to go.
That was perfectly executed, right? Like, and I think that he, as I said before, it's the same with Sandadu. You have a strategy in mind, and you want to execute it. And if you're the opponent, you want to break that. And that's basically the game here. Always, you have tried to execute what you want, and if you can, you're going to win the tournament.
Yeah, if only it was that simple, right? Then I would be winning all of the tournaments. I always have a great strategy in my mind. Sometimes my fingers don't do exactly what I want. Sometimes you wait a turn and then you still click the wrong charge attack.
Yep. I don't know.
That didn't happen last night.
No, of course, it did not happen last night, and I was not watching it, and I was not furious. But I think so far in the tournament, it's been like Shadows actually taking the lead here.
Yeah.
You saw a full Shadow team in round number 1. You saw a Shadow Alolan Sand Slash, and which did well. And this game, we saw Shadow Charizard obliterating the opponent's team. There was nothing on his team that could deal with Shadow Charizard. I kind of find it extremely risky in this meta, where there's a prevalence of Ice-type Pokemon to bring no answers to Fire types, because if you look at Frank the Tank's team, there is no fire answer. It is a Quagsire, but, well, against a flying fire-type Pokemon, it's just trying to catch the Charizard, but it can't.
Yeah, you were saying earlier that you thought that maybe Shadow Alolan Ninetales? Or no, Shadow regular Kanto Ninetales was going to be it, or maybe even just regular Kanto Ninetales.
Shadow Kanto Ninetales. I think it's a good Pokemon, because if you take the Mud Boys out of the picture, right? Like if you look at the core meta,
Mud Boys being the groundwater types, like a Quagsires, like a Swamperts, and...
No, let's not go there. And maybe Stunfisk.
Some people say Unova Stunfisk.
Yeah. So if you take these groundwater types out of the meta, you then have the core meta, which is Medicham, Ice-type Pokemon. You then have the other fires, the Psychic types, the Grass types. So what beats all of this is something like a Kanto Ninetales, and also the Noctowl. It can learn Overheat, and the Shadows Overheat. You will never see a Noctowl's HP disappear as fast as when that Overheat lands.
We saw it with the WTM Go at the EUIC. He played against Scaffle, and it was like Scaffle had a shield left. There was the Ninetales against the Noctowl, and he went straight for the overheat. And Scappo, he's talked about later, he's like, there's no way that he's going for the overheat when I still have a shield left, but it ended up winning him the matchup. So I completely agree. Overheat is one of the charge attacks that also lowers your attack after you use it. So it's one of those that if you switch out later, it can reset everything, but you don't always want to debuff yourself right away or in a position where you're not allowed to swap. So it was a very risky move in that sense.
Yep, and all these Hail Marys pay off. Like, you need to be brave enough to try and execute it. We saw, let's say, your example, Scafo, and then we also saw last season Housestark winning the game by just going for the big Earthquake, even though his opponent had a shield, and his win condition was baiting. And the same happened with Zephy. So with that in mind, let's go straight to our interviewees and see what they have to say.
All right.
Thank you, Amanda and Ab. We are here in the winners area, in the winners interview area with Joppy, who just had a convincing 2-0 victory. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling pretty confident, I'd say. So it's a good feeling. Like not that good because I beat a great friend of mine. We are faction teammates. We know each other very well. Like it's probably the first person I met in the community. So I've been knowing him since probably 2 years. So that I feel good, but I also feel bad for him.
I mean, you can feel confident at least after this first game. Even you caught a Shadow Ball on your Umbreon, and you caught it at a very moment. Why did you decide to not change before that?
I mean, I know my opponent very well, so I know how he plays, and he also knows how I play. So I thought he was going to throw like one move before I was getting to the second Ice Punch, so I to try to catch. Honestly, did not expect Shadow Ball. I was thinking about catching a Sky Attack, but did end up going even better because I did catch Shadow Ball into Umbreon. I felt pretty safe doing that because both Umbreon and Medicham were pretty safe against him. He doesn't have any Fairy type or something like Registeel that counter pretty well Umbreon, so I felt pretty confident about catching the move in the Umbreon. Like, I know the worst case scenario would have been like a Medicham, but Umbreon can still cheat him, and it's such a bad matchup as you might think. And safe with Medicham, same with Medicham, Medicham with energy was pretty good against his whole line. So my plan there was to basically chip the bulky Pokemon like Noctowl or Umbreon, and then try to get energy and sweep with Charizard, because his only, let's say, counter for Charizard was Quagsire, which is not that great because he doesn't have any fast move pressure, and Charizard outspeeds him because you can CMP tie with him with Blast Burn, but you can outpace him with Dragon Claw, so it's not such a bad matchup as you might think, even if it's water and Charizard is fire. So I felt pretty confident with this line. I was thinking about bringing the same line in Game 2 as well, but I think it ended up better. Charizard in the lead was probably better because I could have done many things. I could have tried to bait, I could have saved some energy and then use it in the late game. So it was very flexible. I mean,
so did playing against your friend affect your strategy in any way?
Yes.
You knew when to catch,
Yes.
but did it affect your Bring 3?
Yes, I think so, because I usually adapt my playstyle. If I play someone that I know, maybe I use a certain playstyle. If I do play someone who I don't know, maybe I try to play a bit more safe. And yeah, once I know and I understand how my opponent plays, I can try to adapt my strategy. As I said, I know him pretty well. We always test. We always try to train together for numerous scenarios like Gym Breakers, Sylph, but also play Pokemon tournaments. So I know him pretty well, and I think that helped me adapting to the game style.
So, as you are an Italian player, of course, how many players in this tournament do you know very well?
I mean, probably everyone. I mean, let's say, I don't know how many Italians are exactly here. Let's say about 70, 50 maybe.
The microphone a little closer.
I mean, I don't know how many Italians are here today. Maybe 50, I don't know. Let's say that I know, out of these 50, I might know 40 of them. And I probably have played with 40 or at least 35 of them. So I know them pretty well.
So then you have to know, basically,
Yes.
how many good matchups you will have, how many players you
Yes.
have beat before. What are your chances to, let's say, get to day 2?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. Like, I did not have many expectation coming here, so I think I have nothing to lose now. I should be able to get to day 2 if I win 2 more matches, right? So who knows? Let's see. I can still lose 1 match and then go on. So let's see. I don't know, maybe 50-50, I'd say.
I mean, 50-50 is pretty good to advancing to day 2. Is there any player you really don't want to face, to avoid rather?
I don't know, like I do know some teams of my teammates, but they are playing in other groups. So I don't know which teams are, the players in my group are using, so I don't actually know who I would like to avoid, like, I don't know. But there are some really good players left, like JBG or Arsenio, so it will be really tough, but I'll try.
I mean, it sounds like you are able to beat everyone, especially after this performance. So congratulations on that huge win, Joppy.
Thank you.
And good luck moving forward.
Thank you very much.
We are just going to kick it back to the caster's desk. That's a really good one, man.
Thank you.
Tournament is pretty incredible overall, right? I mean, well, out of what did he say? 50 people there, he knew 40 of them?
Yeah, I think that's very impressive. And as I said, Italian community is very closely knit, so everybody knows everybody. And that's an amazing thing to be, because you're not only here to compete, you're also here and you're hanging out with your friends. After battle, you're just talking to them, hey, I did this in my match and I did this amazingly well and this worked out for me, that worked out for me. So it's also a place where you can gather a lot of knowledge. I think if you're a player who's new to the game, if you spend time at the floor listening and talking to players, you gain a lot of knowledge, and that cannot be replaced anywhere else.
I think one advantage to this as well is that this is a special event, so there's actually no registration fee for entering, and I think that helped a lot of people not only want to come to these events, but I mean, be able to get there pretty easily, right? We see a lot of Italians at this event, more Italians at this event than we've seen at probably all of the other events combined.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. Round 3 is already up, but we are going to wait for them to choose their teams. But speaking of which, I think there's only been 9 Italians competing in the whole play circuit so far, and we have suddenly 50 in one tournament. It's accessibility, right? I think, and they've done it brilliantly by putting an event in Turin, giving people an opportunity, Italians an opportunity to show them.
Yep, no Italians on screen this time, however, though we have Super Alki on the left-hand side against Mod Chess 3 on the right, I believe, who is a French trainer.
Yep, and this is the Group A winners round number 3. We see a Pokemon that people have kind of written off over the course of the meta change, which is a Trevenant, and we also see a Pokemon that Inadequance has been pushing for in the meta, which is an Araquanid. So these Pokemon are kind of iffy in a way, because you need to land the Shadow Ball to take out the Araquanid, and as an Araquanid you need to land the Bug Buzz. So it'll be very fun interaction to watch on who and how they figure this out.
Yeah, I haven't seen any Dunsparce on any of the teams yet so far, but I do see Walrein on Mod Chess's side, which is, I did say, I think that there is going to be a comeback of that, because with the ice types coming back, Walrein has always been super strong. We saw a player, Arceus Aurelius, do really well with Walrein before it even got this extra buff.
I think Walrein is a good Pokemon by default because of the bulk and the coverage it has with its moves. It got a bit more buffed, but now it's in a good place, I think. Just talking about Walrein, let's see if we're going to see it in game number 1. Both players are locked, and we do see a Walrein into a Noctowl.
And a Walrein has found its target indeed. Super Alki, I'll have to see how choosing to respond. Switching into that Lantern, we see that is a Spark Lantern met by a Sableye, which seems to be like a pretty safe swap overall.
Yep, exactly. Lantern with Spark is going to do a lot of work on this Sableye, because Thunderbolts come in quick and fast, but the fast move does not do a lot of damage. Here comes the first Thunderbolt, does about 40% of the Sableye. The Sableye is farming up, and will he go for the big hitting return, or will he go for the back-to-back foul play? And he throws a foul play.
Looks like, yeah, he's also going for a charge attack priority there. This could be a fake out of a return. The Super Alki not really respecting it, saying, nah, no, I know you. You're just going to be throwing a foul play at me. Meanwhile, I'm at this serve, and now it is up to Mod Chess to decide if he wants to even try to play for that switch advantage, and it looks like he does.
Yep, he shields up this move, taking 1 damage from it, and he's frantically racing to get to the second foul play, but throws the first one, hoping for a shield from Super Alki, and he lets it go. He does not want to preserve the matchup.
This is actually kind of incredible, because we know that Walrein has such a dominant matchup against Noctowl here, and that Galarian Surface in the back would have loved to see Walrein. Meanwhile, just still charging up a little bit more here, going ahead and throwing this foul play, and it looks like Super Alki is saving both both of these shields for the Galarian Stunfisk in the back.
Yep, I think that's a very, very smart move here, looking at kind of predicting what Morchess might have at the back, but the Noctowl already has a Sky Attack stored, and whatever comes in is going to have to tank that move. Let's see, he goes for the Shadow Ball here, and Shadow Ball does a convincingly good amount of damage, even though it does not have the same type attack bonus.
Yeah, going ahead and doing about 50% there. It's still in the green, now but in the yellow, and we see the Galarian Stunfisk come in, and this is actually not great overall for Morchess because Lickitung doesn't do that well against the overall, especially a Stunfisk with 2 shields already up past an Earthquake. Throwing this first one here, Lickitung is like the bulkiest Pokemon in Great League, but it still doesn't want to tank more than 1 Earthquake.
Yep, the Earthquake does actually does less than what you expect it to do, unfortunately. But here comes a Power Whip. Power Whip, if unshielded, does neutral damage to this Steel Ground type Pokemon. And let's see if Super Alki calls it. He calls the shield. This is absolutely perfect for him because now he can go for the second Earthquake and potentially, if unshielded, farm down this Lickitung. Let's see what Morchess does.
Yeah, Morchess choosing to let this go. Maybe we saw the Umbreon Sponge before. We're now seeing a Lickitung Sponge as well. Will he be able to lick and get up to that Power Whip? He doesn't think so. Going ahead and throwing this resisted Body Slam into the Galarian Stunfisk, and Super Alki already knows. You could see it on his face. He's like, I can count that. I'm pretty sure that's not a Power Whip.
Exactly. You saw how little the Earthquake did. This Body Slam even did less. And this is now in a very precarious situation because he will have to call this Icicle Spear. Does he do it? It's going to have to take a lot of courage, and no, that is unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but look how much energy he has there. Rock Slide almost up to another one, and we have to see, we have to remember also that Icicle Spear at this range could potentially be enough, but it is a regular Walrein, so it's not going to be hitting as hard. We're about to find out, will this Icicle Spear that got the buff be able to take out the Galarian Stunfisk?
Well, if it does, oh, that is just not enough. The buff was not enough, and that is unfortunate. Super Alki having such a bad lead, letting go of his switch and then absolutely sweeping the game with that Stunfisk. And also, it's funny to note the Noctowl still has half a HP and sitting and flying.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think that what a good prediction by Super Alki in the back, because there is a Medicham on Morchess' side. And if that was the Medicham in the back, the Galarian Stunfisk would have had not as good of time. But however, having both Lickitung and Walrein on the team was a bit to Morchess' detriment there, as the Galarian Stunfisk does pretty well against both of those Pokemon.
Yep, that was a really, really interesting interaction as well. One of the reasons why I think that not bringing Lickitung into that Lantern proved really, really costly for Morchess. Because if he brought in the Lickitung, yes, of course, the Noctowl is going to farm it down, but you have a very convincing matchup. You don't have to pull up a shield. You just go straight Power Whip, and you secure switch, and you also do a ton of damage onto the Noctowl if the Noctowl comes in. Because, of course, licks don't add up, but he will the Noctowl will have to throw a charged attack. So what do you think, let's say, Morchess will want to do to try and counter the counter? Well, not really. He did counter Super Alki, but how do you think he's going to approach this game?
I mean, I think the team composition building was really well done overall. I mean, Super Alki has 2 ghost types on his team, right? So he's basically saying, I dare you to bring Medicham in. And Lickitung seems like one of the best answers to that as well, because it's being able to do those licks, which is super effective, and the Shadow Claws are going to be resisted because of its normal typing. It's just sort of like finding how to get these aligned, right? If you're putting 2 Pokemon that is really weak to the Galarian Stunfisk, like we saw, I mean, it was a very advantageous round overall for Super Alki. I mean, there's not many things that can deal with that Galarian Stunfisk super well on Morchess' team, and which is surprising because it is one of the Pokemon that is used most often in these types of tournaments.
Yep. I think Walrein does okay. Medicham does really well. Lickitung, not as great, but it can also deal with it. But he built a team, Super Alki built a team around Stunfisk and trying to enable it by using the, as you said before, the Noctowl, Trevenant, so a Flyer, a Ghost type, 2 Ghost types, a Fairy type, and a Water type that also has a decent matchup against the Medicham. So trying to use Medicham is a very risky situation, because just looking at it probabilistically, 5 out of 6 times you're going to pick the wrong card.
Exactly, and it's really just being able to try to find that Galarian Stunfisk, right? It's like one of those games where there's cups and you're moving them around, and you say, yes, okay, step right up, Monchess, see if you can find the Galarian Stunfisk. We have the Lantern into the wall, and we're about to see if this is the Spark, or
It is a Spark
if we
Lantern,
saw it earlier.
yes.
And to see if he remembers. He doesn't, but it looks like he's choosing to stay in because we have to remember that Earthquake does a lot of damage to this Lantern as well.
Wow, what an absolutely beautiful catch. Taking all this energy and damage onto the Lickitung, which was so much more bulkier than Walrein. And at this point, Super Alki has to decide what he wants to do, because Lickitung is going to go into town.
Yeah, it looks like he was trying to catch maybe a potential body slam, but coming into the Galarian Stunfisk, which again, like we said before, it's such a positive matchup overall for the Galarian Stunfisk. These power whips are neutral, but again, since it's not same type attack bonus from the Lickitung, it's not doing that much damage overall. Meanwhile, Galarian Stunfisk is just continuing to get up a ton of energy, going ahead and throwing this Earthquake here, which we saw before. Might not be enough to knock out at this range, but he's going to get ahead and get a lot of mud shots afterwards.
Exactly, it's not enough, but it's perfectly played to a situation where the Galarian Stunfisk can now mud shot it down and threaten the Walrein that's going to come after. Here comes another power whip, no shielding. Super Alki knows this is not enough, you're not doing enough, and I'm going to mud shot you down, and that's exactly what he's going for.
Yeah, going all ahead and getting up all this energy, basically at 100 energy again, right before that body slam would be able to come through, and now it's in a very precarious position for Monchess because Walrein doesn't do well against that Lantern, but it doesn't do well against the Galarian Stunfisk either.
Especially a Galarian Stunfisk with a lot of energy, but this was a swap in by Monchess. He's wanting to sacrifice his Sableye and hoping Super Alki throws the move blindly, and that's exactly what Super Alki did, going for another Rock Slide back-to-back just to chip Sableye. Any damage is good damage.
That's right, chipping is good overall, going ahead and Shadow Clawing and coming in with the Sableye of his own, but we have to remember, the switch timers are misaligned. Getting up a little bit of extra energy and throwing this foul play, Super Alki still has 2 shields left on the field, and it looks like he's not going to go ahead and shield this either. Oh, well, the very last second.
Yep. Pulling up the shield in the very last second, and this Walrein is not up to an Earthquake and goes for an Icicle Spear. Perfectly timed, absolutely knowing and kind of reading his opponent. Okay, this is when he's going to throw, and that's when I'm going to throw my charge attack, and Monchess has to pull up that shield.
Yep, knowing as well which Pokemon wins the charge attack priority is usually something that is pretty helpful overall, but you can allow you to store up a little bit of extra energy before throwing. That first Icicle Spear is going through, and if Monchess is counting, he knows, and he's probably going to throw right away as well, but he does, again, at charge attack priority.
Oh, that is very, very costly here, because this is a damage that he could have absolutely avoided taking, and this puts Super Alki in such a dominant position. He's absolutely in the driver's seat unless some magic happens and this match goes back to Monchess.
We'll have to see, because again, we have to see that Lantern full health here, already at another Thunderbolt, but at this point, we saw a Mud Shot down, we might see a Spark down as well. This is another Icicle Spear, and protected there just to be safe, because like we said before, those Earthquakes would be enough to knock out the Lantern overall, and Lantern wants all this energy stored up, saying, it's mine.
And he's still committing for the Spark down. He could have, but he doesn't want to, playing it safe. Taking the Sableye out, and let's see if the Walrein will survive. And is this a shield KO? Oh my god.
A little bit of worse for the wear there, catching this foul play onto the low health Galarian Stunfisk. Great sacrificial swap here, coming back in with that Lantern, going to be able to spark down the Sableye, and if we look at it, about to spark down that Walrein too for a decisive 2-0 victory for Super Alki.
Super Alki used the Lantern perfectly there. Game 1, his Lantern helped him set up a win by farming down the Sableye on the Noxal, and game number 2, he just called, as I said, he just tried to find, his opponent was trying to find the Stunfisk, but couldn't.
Yeah, overall, I think this is another fun point is, so we've seen a rise of water gun lanterns overall as well, and I think with a bunch of ice types coming in, people's most natural inclinations say, you know what, maybe Water Gun Lantern is going to be the Lantern of choice.
Yep.
Super Alki also maybe playing one step ahead to those users is saying, okay, if everyone's going to be bringing Lantern, because let's face it, it's one of the most popular picks, I'm going to make sure that my Lantern beats the other ones, and Spark Lantern is one of the best ways to do so.
Exactly. I think Spark Lantern is a more convincing way to beat the Water Gun Noxal Lantern core, because you beat both of them. It's the same Pokemon, but used differently, and again, that's one of the intricacies strategies that you can learn by simulating the Pokemon's performance while you play in Go Battle League. Do you run Spark Lantern for a bit, see how it does, run Water Gun Lantern for a bit, see how it does, what fits your playstyle, and then go
and what
from
fits
there.
your team composition, right? I mean,
Exactly.
sometimes you might want to overall have a Spark Lantern, but you realize that, oh, you know what? I kind of need that Water Gun pressure because a Spark Lantern isn't going to be doing the job overall. Do I want the damage from my fast attack, or do I want to be able to get to my charge attack super quickly?
And I think in a lot of the scenarios in previous metas, the Water Gun Lantern was the preferred Pokemon of choice because you don't usually have more than 2 hard answers to a Registeel, or even one of your hard answers, which is a Medicham, can get flipped by a Zap Cannon debuff from the Registeel. So Water Gun Lantern was like a contingency plan, is that if you swap in a Registeel into a Water Gun Lantern, you have a opportunity to be able to beat the Registeel. And the same goes for Stunfisk. If you swap in a Stunfisk into the Water Gun Lantern, yes, it's a ground type Pokemon, but the Water Guns add up, and also you will need to call the Earthquake. If you call the Earthquake correctly, shield it up, then you flip that matchup as a Lantern. So that's basically what Amanda was going for when she said, based on the team comp, what do you need?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Registeels, I've yet to see one this tournament.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised why I've not seen a...
Are we turning into North America?
Well, I hope so.
In the past, we did a comparison chart, and there was the top cut of both. What was I think it was Bochum?
It was, I think, Bochum, and at that time Fort Wayne. No.
Yeah, it was whatever 2 Pokemon tournaments were going on at the same weekend. And there was 5 Registeel users in the European one and 0 in North America, and we were flabbergasted because in Europe it seems like Registeel is almost on every single team.
Yep. I think I don't really I understand why Registeel needs to be there, because again, one of the biggest answers for Registeel is a Medicham, and you can counter it. But I also understand another perspective is that if you think there's going to be a lot of Shadow Swampers on the other team, then Stunfisk is kind of slightly better because you can threaten with an Earthquake. Focus Blast does not take it out, but an Earthquake from a Galarian Stunfisk puts it very close to a range where you can much shut down the Swampert. Another interesting thing is, like, I've been fooling around with a new meta, trying to build a team.
Sure.
And one of the things that I found out is that Umbreon, for me, is perfect. And you pair Umbreon with, like, a bunch of other bulky Pokemon, it's going to work. The team that I've had the most success with while practicing against competitors yesterday was 5 Pokemon strong against Shadow, Alolan, Sandslash, and 1 Altaria.
Altaria is something that we definitely haven't seen as much anymore. I think because of all those ice types, it's gotten very scared. But I mean, we've seen it multiple times. We saw it with Shadow Dragonair as well. Dragon Breath is just so oppressive as that fast attack, being able to just do so much damage before people can even get to their charge.
Yep, and if you, the reason why I bring this Altaria up is that if you looked at all the drafts so far, Altaria looked good. Like even in the last matchup, Altaria there would have broken a bunch of course. So Altaria Cresselia, let's say Cresselia does have access to Moonblast, but I think you need a decent stat product Cresselia to beat an Altaria, and it's interesting to see why it's kind of being ignored, but I understand the meta is new.
Yes.
And people are still afraid of the ice types. So
this is a good point you bring up because we are the first tournament in this new meta, so I think people are kind of anxiously awaiting with bated breath to see how this is going to turn out. Also the one that is this afternoon as well in Milwaukee.
Yep.
Yes.
It's in Milwaukee, yes. And also there's another one on Sunday.
In Santiago.
In Santiago. Milwaukee has always been Rice's battleground.
That's
so
right, yeah.
So let's see how he performs and if he's going to play. He's also a top competitor from the NA Pokemon.
I think he's one of the only, if only, person who has won 2 regional championships.
Oh wow, that is an achievement and a half. Or an achievement and another.
Yeah, more achievements than most of the players.
Yeah,
indeed.
Fair enough. Yes, and you see the graph here. We are right now live in Turin, and we've been having an absolute blast. And it's really, for me, it's been very fulfilling as well because I'm seeing how the meta is evolving. I'm seeing how the players are adapting. You see different approaches. You saw the approach with Araquanid. You saw an approach with Walrein. You see an approach with Alolan Sandslash, and you see another one is like, I'm just going to play Shadow Charizard, I'm going to blast burn my way through it.
Yeah, I think Shadow Charizard coming back is one of the actual bigger surprises to me overall. It's been on almost every team that we've seen. It's like, are we back in Liverpool? Because that's when Human Catcher Bug used it, and I think he was the first person to use it so well that people took a step back and said, wait a minute, why am I not using this Pokemon?
He really pioneered Shadow Charizard, I think, and also if you look at all the records prior to all the tournaments that's been played, Human Catcher Bug has the most successful tournament run, dropping only 2 games.
Incredible.
which is absolutely incredible. Never went to the lower bracket, never had a bracket reset, just blast burned his way through through Liverpool. Nobody was expecting it, and there's a bunch of stats that you can look at from players as well, and it's impressive to see, especially in the European scene, right? Like when you talk about Spice is nice, even though I like meta Pokemon, is that European players tend to bring 5 really solid Pokemon and 1 Spice pick, and these players kind of make it to the top cut.
Yep.
Like Malmo, for example, you had Shadow Gliscor. Liverpool, you had the Shadow Charizard. EUIC, you had the Shadow Dragonair. So I think you need conventional teams, but that one spark, that Pokemon that is just your Pokemon, to bring it home.
I think a point you have to put on top of that is, so I was talking with Aero Bubble when I had interviewed him when he had made it pretty far, and he said, there's a difference to me between Spice and like picks that are maybe a bit off meta that people aren't realizing, right? So I mean, not all Pokemon unfortunately are created equal here on the battlegrounds, and so some of them might not fare as well. So even if it's like, if Ivysaur is your favorite Pokemon, it might not have the best time overall, but that doesn't mean that maybe, yeah, you can't find a good playstyle around Venusaur. And it doesn't mean that, again, because if you look at Shadow Dragonair, it's not that it had that convincing of matchups overall against, let's say, all the Pokemon, but it did really break up that core Pokemon of Noctowl, Medicham, and Lantern, which seemed to be, and even Trevenant, which were really popular at that time.
Spinning off your breaking the Noctowl core, just for people who know, if you run a very good Dragonair, you're not going to be able to break the Noctowl. You need to have a specific attack breakpoint to be able to flip this matchup. And if you want this information, you can go to the players backstage and they will let you know.
Yeah, I'm sure most players would love to let you know their little secret spices of making sure they know which one to go here and there. That's the thing about Lurgan Rocket, and he will actually most likely tell you as well. He says he knows every single little breakpoint, everything. He says, yeah, I'm running my Obstagoon with this because I know that I can be able to beat the A, B, and C. Not everyone goes that in depth, but overall, I think it's a good strategy, especially if that's something that you can really use to your advantage.
I also use this strategy as well quite a bit because I like the analytics behind it, and I like that, okay, this is probably something the other player doesn't know, and so I'm going to use it the best possible way I can because I know it will work because they don't know.
Sure, yeah, that makes complete sense. But meanwhile, we're going to go over to Leo, who's going to be talking with Super Alki about the convincing 2-0 win that he just had.
Thank you so much, Amanda and Abi. We had to wait a little bit for a VGC interview to finish, but now we are here for our winners interview with Super Alki after a convincing 2-0 victory. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it was really fine. And Moches was a good player. And I was so happy that I win it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It was a good battle. In game 2, there was a little bit of a miscount on his side. Do you think that would have changed the outcome of the game?
Yeah, this was the
deciding factor.
Yes.
Yes. So, when you saw his team, did you have anything special you wanted to bring?
This was a good question, but I don't know.
To be honest, we had to wait a long time after this last match, so I don't even recall the entire teams that you were bringing. Okay. You were winning with your Lantern. How do you approach the Lantern versus Walrein matchup?
Oh, I think Walrein is really good for other team, and I bring it in the lead. Our Aqua was bad and Walrein was bad. Noctu, also Noctowl, is everything bad. Yes.
So Lantern basically a deciding factor in this matchup for you. You are also running Trevenant, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Even after the attack update, why is that?
Yeah, can change versus Quagsire or other games. Then I bring Trevenant, or I don't know if this attack update is too fast, you know. This was no many time, and yeah.
So you were saying Quagsire. Do you expect a lot of Quagsires? Because we have seen it on some teams, but it wasn't really showcased on stream.
I will showcase on my stream, and it was really good with the mud bombs and with the Stone Ages. It was a really good Pokemon in the future in this season.
So I, for myself, want to see a lot more of Quagsire later on. But thank you, Super Alki, for the interview. Good luck for your future games. You have performed well in Bochum already, so I think you're going to do well in Turin as well. So you guys, thank you, and we're going to kick it back to the casters.
Thank you, Leo. I'm going to do a little fun intro, see if people get it. Hello, welcome in, everyone. I am Lundberger, but you can call me Amanda.
And my name is Martijn. You may know me as Inadequence. I'm glad to be here again, this time in Turin. We've had some really good battles. I've seen a lot of people that I know. Super Alki doesn't speak English too well, but he tried his best. I like, it's just such a
that
great
winner's
guy.
spirit as well, too. Being able to do so well, I believe in Bochum, and then also on his way to almost maybe being a day 2 competitor again in Turin. We'll have to see.
Perhaps, perhaps. Now, I want to talk about another thing that we have here as the casters. We actually have giveaway codes for the players here at Turin. And, you know, you get in-game items if you redeem those. So if you see one of us, like one of the casters, right? Myself, Amanda, Leo, or Count Sevius. As you see here, the tweet that we have here. Yeah, you can come up to us, show us your best Pokemon that you caught here in Turin, and we will give you a free in-game code that you can redeem for items.
Yeah, okay. I'm a little bit nervous now. You're just going to get completely swarmed with attention, even more than normal, Martijn.
And here we see myself. I already had one player, Raging Taz. You may know him. Do you know this guy, Amanda?
I am familiar with Raging Taz. Raging Taz, one of like a big community leader in the Italian community and a huge name in grassroots. I'm excited to see how he's going to be doing in this tournament so far.
Well, at this point, I believe he is in the lower bracket, but Raging Taz is known. It was a while ago since he's playing in the competitive scene, but he is known to come back real strong. So it might just be possible that we may see more of him later on. Yeah, Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about the battle we had earlier?
Yeah, before we even talk about this, I want to talk about now. This seems like a Liverpool recap because have you seen how many Shadow Charizards there have been used?
I did.
3 already on stream, and I wonder if those can't possibly be the only 3 that are here overall.
I'm so excited. I love Charizard. It's so strong. I used it in Hartford myself. Unfortunately, just like Sandudu, got it on a Bastiodon once. It happens. But, you know, if you get it in the right spot, it can just take on everything. I love that it can take on Swampert. I believe we've seen quite some water types as well, right? With less Trevenant, which is ironic because we just saw one.
Yes.
But with less Trevenant around, I think Medicham, Lantern, Swampert, those kind of Pokemon are even better right now. So, yeah, I think Charizard still kind of can thrive in that meta. Obviously, there's always Lantern, right, that you need to overcome. So, yeah, I'm excited for what we see more of that, the Charizards, but also what we see next. I believe the next matchup we will see soon will be Andres. You may have seen him you may have seen her in previous tournaments as well, right? She has been on stream quite a few times, like in Liverpool and at Utrecht regionals. And she'll be playing against...
She's playing against Maki, who we saw in the very first round as well, an Italian player who used to be, not even used to be, she does a lot of staffing as well. And she was playing around and she said, you know what, this seems like so much fun. I want to enter in a tournament myself.
And here we see them actually. We see Aki on the left and we see Andres on the right side. Now, I know Andres for running quite the safest pick, the hardest meta. I mean, meta is meta for a reason, right?
Yeah, we keep saying it because we have to admit it is very true.
It is very good, and it has some of, as we see here, we both predicted Sableye to probably make the top cut. I think that was a little bit too easy, right? Because it's just gonna be everywhere. I think it's like the prime Medicham counter right now, especially that Trevenant is a little bit off the table for now.
Yeah, and also like we've been seeing a lot more Umbreons than expected as well. I mean, I guess Count Xevious is pretty happy about this. He did say that there would be a lot of Umbreons, but Umbreon being used essentially as, I keep saying it as like a third or a fourth shield because it just has so much bulk to it, right? So it can tank a lot of these charge attacks that other Pokemon don't want to be able to face. Absolutely.
Now, there's also a newer Pokemon that we see here, right? She's already been on stream, Nomaki, but the Dugong, that one has Drill Run now, and I think Ice and ground is such a good offensive coverage. It can hit that Registeel for super effective. Obviously, you take a big hit yourself from Focus plus a Zap Cannon, but you can win the one shields if you don't get the Zap Cannon debuff, right? And a lot of neutral matchups such as Sableye and Umbreon, you can also win that. Now, I don't remember if Andres runs Spark or Water Gun Lantern, but also Water Gun Lantern, you can win the zero shields, which is just great for Dugong. I'm really excited to see that.
That's impressive overall. We have to also remember that Dugong is one of the Pokemon that has Icy Wind as the other charge attack, and that is something that, okay, potentially even a bait move, but if a bait still debuffs your opponent, you still feel like it's a win overall, right?
Absolutely, and I love baiting. If you just get that bait and your opponent falls for it, it just puts you at such a good advantage usually, right? Yeah. Especially in this case, both moves are the same energy, and you know they shield the Icy Wind. Let's say Registeel shields an Icy Wind. You must feel pretty silly as a Registeel user, right?
That is true. You have to wonder if shields down. I don't know. Sometimes Icy Wind seems to be enough. If a Pokemon has already been, you know, debuffed, they don't have a lot of health left overall, being able to store up a lot of extra energy to not only Icy Wind one opponent, but then when the next Pokemon comes in to be able to Icy Wind that second one again, getting damage on two Pokemon is something that is really impressive.
And that is why I think Dugong has such a good role in the current meta. Now, the one difficult thing is Medicham and Lantern are all over the place, which makes it quite difficult to use that Dugong. On the other hand, you do counter the flyers quite well, and your neutral matchups are really good. You can also set up your next Pokemon coming in for a farm down, right? Because, as you say, with the Ice Wind, you can keep debuffing. Do you think there's any merit for running Liquidation on Dugong? Because that's a move it also has now.
That's true. Just had the move update. I'm not actually too sure. I haven't seen it in action yet, but we didn't get to see the Dugong from Maki from the first game either, so maybe she's going to go ahead and hide that, and maybe it is running Liquidation, and we're just talking about Icy Wind for no reason.
Yes, chat. Please tell us who you think who will win. Who are you rooting for? We would love to see some hype for these battlers on stage here. These proud, these very brave battlers here today in Turin. Yeah, so from Andres, I know that she's been struggling with making a team a little bit. I think that's the case for like about everyone, right? Like after a new meta update, it's just a big puzzle.
Yep, that's what I was talking to Maki about. I said, I noticed that your team seems overall, besides that Dugong, pretty safe. And she said, yeah, I've been watching these tournaments, so I noticed like there's pretty meta Pokemon. They're probably picked for a reason here. But overall, I mean, we heard Sandudu talk to you about it a little bit. A lot of team composition, a lot of working with other people to figure out what is going to be the best overall team to be using in this first Pokemon tournament in the new meta.
And I think it kind of sets the stage for the next tournaments as well, right? Because there won't be more in Europe after this, but we will have 2 more, I believe, in the United States, Fresno and the NAIC. But it also sets up the meta for Worlds, right, in Yokohama, which is still 2 months away. But this is basically the first tournament to try out this puzzle. And I'm not only interested in what we see here in Europe, but also how NA, like there's Milwaukee this weekend as well, the tournament in Milwaukee, and Santiago and Shield, how they will adapt to this.
I know as a Worlds competitor yourself, you're probably taking some vigorous notes about what people are playing, right? What team compositions seem to be going well overall?
Well, it's difficult to say because currently there are still a couple of community days scheduled, right? And sometimes those Pokemon get pretty good moves, right? New charge attacks. Right. The next coming up is the Haxorus with Breaking Swipe, basically the same as Dragon Claw, which it already has. But this charge attack actually drops the attack from the opposing Pokemon. And I think that can be a huge upgrade. For Haxorus, maybe not so much because it's so fragile. But for other Pokemon, I think Greninja might get Hydro Cannon before we get to Worlds. And, you know, those kind of upgrades, or sorry, not Greninja, Primarina, apologies, Primarina, right? A Charmer with a cheap charge attack, that's Hydro Cannon. I think that could really shake things up.
Not only cheap, but very hard hitting as well. Hydro Cannon is like, I was saying before, a Frenzy Plant from a Venusaur, even that Shadow Charizard doesn't want to tank it too hard just because I mean, Community Day moves are just really good moves.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, we'll see how that will adapt to this meta. Currently, we don't have any other decisive Pokemon like that. I think for this tournament, people are probably going mostly with Pokemon like Noctowl, Sableye, Lantern, Medicham. Those are probably the safest Pokemon to use. People might just be a little bit more comfortable with it as well. Now, Amanda, a question for you. With Trevenant a little bit being pushed out currently, what would you run as charge attacks on your Medicham?
Yeah, I discussed this a little bit earlier with Abby as well, because am a big fan overall of a power-up punch Medicham. And because I like my fighter just to be able to ramp up and do a little bit of extra damage. But I also think you almost need Ice Punch for the current meta still, but because of the knockdowns that are still so prevalent, because I mean, just because it's a pretty cheap move as well to be able to get to rather quickly. And Ice Punch and Power Punch just do not pair well together. Say you're met up with an Azumarill or something like that, then you're pretty much just completely walled.
You know why I like Power Punch?
Tell me.
I love baiting.
You did say this once before, but tell me this, if you're running a Power Punch and Ice Punch, there's no nuke move, they're both baits.
So I actually played one opponent in Hartford as well who ran that. Meteor Valiant, one of my Bastion opponents. He also runs the Power Punch, Ice Punch Medicham. I think it just like makes it easier to run, to just force the switch advantage, right? With 2 shields, because you just keep ramping up. And possibly if you keep baiting like an Altaria, you might be able to just Ice Punch it down at some point. Yeah, again, this matchup, I'm not sure if we're going to see Power Up Punch here really. I believe Andres likes to play it, say, with Ice Punch Psychic, but...
I'm more curious to see if she's planning on running a Water Gun or a Spark Lantern as well, because I know that it's alternated between some different tournaments, I believe. Andres is one of the competitors as well that she's come very close to top cut on multiple occasions, just falling short, I believe, in like the winners of the first day.
Yeah, and she did that using Water Gun Lantern before, but you know what it is again with Water Gun Lantern? I myself ran Spark Lantern just specifically for the Water Gun Lanterns, because I think Water Gun Lantern can be so dominant in some scenarios, and in this current meta, it's better against Alolan Sandslash, which has had a big upgrade as well. I don't know if the trainers, if you trainers also used the Shadow Alolan Sandslash with Drill Run, but as long as it's not a Medicham, man, it's so good. I love using it.
We saw this huge showcase of it in Malmo as well for the Mind Joke who was here, and also Denki Chan.
Yeah, they got to top cut. I believe that Denki Chen got to 3rd place and a Mind Joke to 4th place. Perhaps a Mind Joke will do as well here. I know he's in the lower bracket as well currently, but you know, it's still possible to make a good run.
I mean, that's the thing about double elimination, right? You just need 2 to lose. There's a difference between stumbling and falling and stumbling and being able to get back up and still win that race.
Yeah, there's still a lot of runs these players can make indeed. I think if you have an Alolan Sandslash, another Pokemon you need to look out for, which we've seen a couple times, is the Umbreon. Because the Shadow Claws are resisted and Umbreon just doesn't really care about Drill Runs, Ice Punches. As if it's not super effective, it tickles Umbreon.
Yeah, we did a practice tournament that you actually put together, and I ran an Umbreon and had up against a Dugong, and basically even I just kept getting debuffed, but I just kept throwing out because Umbreon is so bulky as it is. It's just like, I don't care how many of these Icy Winds you throw at me, I'm just going to keep throwing these foul plays that are having less and less attack.
How did the tournament go for you?
When you win some and you lose some, and you lose more than you win some.
Yeah, one Pokemon that I tried myself is the Tapu Fini.
Yes.
I think Tapu Fini...
Channeling your inner Enhoff?
I actually tried out a team that she suggested with Tapu Fini and Alolan Sandslash, both of them. I think that's just a pretty good core in general, right? There's not a lot that breaks that core consistently. And that's why I kind of want to try the Tapu Fini. I think Azumarill also still has a lot of safe play. It's just that Registeel and the Registeel and the Lantern. Sorry, the Lantern. That was what I was looking for. That it struggles against.
Yeah, it's really risky to bring a Tapu Fini, but the high risk, high reward scenarios overall, because if there's not a Lantern, there's not many things that can go against it, like you were saying. And if you think about Zweilous, who in Liverpool as well, he made it to day 2 using a Tapu Fini, and I think he's been like the only European competitor that we've seen on stream actually using it.
He also had it with an Ampharos. I think Zweilous is on a whole other level.
He's on a different plane.
Right. So, did we see any Dunsparce yet so far? That's also
no. I wanted to bring that up because it was one of the Pokemon that you sort of introduced to the European meta overall. And again, this was my overall pick, the one that I thought we were going to see the most. And we haven't seen it once. That doesn't mean that it's not in the tournament. We just haven't seen it on stream. But I really was impressed overall with how people have been playing it. Very top cut people. Status Stan, also who's qualified for Worlds, has been running Dunsparce. You were running Dunsparce. Guys, let's get with the Dunsparce program here. Help me win this bet.
One thing that I struggled with as Dunsparce players, that it lost the 0 shields to like Trevenant, even Alolan Ninetales, especially Shadow Alolan Ninetales, wasn't that great. You do super effective damage, even Charizard double super effective fast attacks, you still cannot farm it down. that was just where it lacked a little bit of power, you know. But now you actually can win more of those scenarios. I haven't checked or played that battle out yet, but I do think now that in the 2 shields you can farm down a Charizard with your Dunsparce with double super effective fast moves.
And we've seen it already. We've seen 3 Charizards. So, I mean, I think if there was a Dunsparce on any of those teams, they'd be a little bit more worried. I mean, rollout as it is, you get to those charge attacks very, very quickly, right? I mean, so it's not like if you're a Charizard, you're already a bit fearful overall that it's like one of these rock slides is going to be enough to take me out. I need to be able to use these shields.
Yeah, and I think Dunsparce is just a little bit more friendly rather than something like a Bastiodon, right? The Bastiodon is not friendly at all. American players, please take note. I don't want to play 4 Bastiodons in your tournaments. Again, it was quite difficult. How about we take a look at some of the plays that our competitors make here?
Yeah.
Welcome in, trainers. My name is Martijn, also known as Inadequance, and we're going to take a look at a perfect play. We'll be observing a very skilled player perform a small technique that allows them to win a battle they otherwise may not have won. In this clip, we are taking a look at a very high-level play of Lurgan Rocket in the grand finals of the Bochum Regional Championship against 23 EJB. In the final moments of this battle, 23 EJB is in a different spot. The Diggersby from Lurgan Rocket is not a matchup that the Trevenant wins when both Pokémon are on even shields and even energy. The win condition for EJB is a difficult one to execute. He needs to make a sacrificial swap on his very low health Azumarill. Lurgan Rocket knows this. To prevent EJB from making this catch, he has a technique. At the moment he wants to push his charge move, he waits for the fast move of the Trevenant to be visible. A Pokémon cannot swap during the fast move animation, so Lurgan Rocket can then safely throw the Fire Punch.
It will all come down to this very moment. Will Lurgan wait a turn? Yes, he does, and I think that's enough.
He did it, trying to go for a swap there, but Lurgan going ahead and just keep on quick attacking down, able to throw this Fire Punch. It was a very desperate attempt.
In this battle of 23 EJB versus Arsenio, EJB leads his Azumarill into Arsenio's Registeel, which is a terrible spot for the Aqua Rabbit. EJB is in a very difficult spot when Arsenio later on reveals the Lantern. The Azumarill has nowhere to go. To win this battle, EJB needs to preserve his Trevenant, and thus he makes a sacrificial swap. He catches the super effective Thunderbolt from the Lantern on Azumarill. Azumarill is basically fed to Registeel and Lantern, but because EJB preserves the Trevenant, EJB is able to take the win in the end.
Oh my goodness, he actually decides to shield it despite quite a negative matchup. Maybe he decides that these fast spammy moves are going to put shield pressure, catches onto the Azumarill, and Arsenio actually is in a little bit of a rough position here as EJB still has that Trevenant in the back for the Registeel.
Hello trainers, apologies for a little bit of delay. We have some technical issues at the stage and we want to make sure that our battlers have the best experience playing the battles, right? So
I think this always happens when we're on as well. I think maybe people just love to see us together, and you know what, we're giving the audience what they want.
It's us, indeed. How about instead we talk a little bit about one of the Pokémon. We have some nice, some cool spotlight cards that we have prepared. How about we talk about Medicham first, right?
yeah, there we go. One of the Pokemon that, you know, I'm pretty sure has the highest usage yet. We don't have the data yet for this for Turin, but we do see here that we see the charge attacks for Medicham and the charge attack that you preferably want to run. There's also Psycho Cut, but I heard that once a Psycho Cut Medicham lost to a Wall Rain, I don't think you want to run Psycho Cut as the fast attack.
I think the thing was that it was a day 2 competitor going on. It was Psycho Cut, but they ran absolutely no fighting moves on it as well. So they ran Psycho Cut with Psychic and Ice Punch still. So being able to get to those very quickly, but not being able to do much heavy hitting moves indeed against a Wall Rain.
I think
still got a double shield from the opponent though.
I guess they baited. I guess they baited.
They baited.
If your opponent might not know what moves you have, right? Chat, if you have any other Pokemon you would like us to talk about from the new update, you can ask them in the chat. We'll see if we can pick some of that up. But for Medicham, I think by far currently has the best uses, especially because of more Alolan Sandslash, more Ice types.
Right.
Steel types are still dominant. I think I would predict something like that it will be on like 80% of the teams.
I think I would say that from all of the tournaments, except for the first one after the Wing Attack update in Stuttgart, Medicham has been the top picked Pokemon in every single play tournament in the European region.
Yeah, I think in the United States has been a little bit less. We also see a shift between Galarian Stunfisk and Registeel there. So I think maybe that's just a difference between regions there. Maybe people have more success with Galarian Stunfisk in North America, and North American players just adapt to that. Yeah, another Pokemon that we saw there that Medicham was not great against is the Azumarill. We don't see it as much. It's honestly not the worst matchup, especially if you get a defense drop.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
You can actually win, I believe, the 1 and the 2 shields. I'm not too sure. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, you know, we don't see a lot of Azumarill just yet. And I think it's mostly because of the Lantern, right?
I think so. Lantern, and also because in Europe as well, normally seeing a lot of Registeels. It's one of those Pokemon where it's just like, okay, Azumarill. It's like the Tapu Fini in the way, you know, the typing is the same with that water and fairy, but Tapu Fini has that water gun pressure. We talked about this as well, like Lantern with the water gun pressure, just being able to do a little bit more with that fast attack has some good damage. When you're just being able to bubble, it's so predictable, right? You know the counts, you know that Azumarill is only going to be running Hydro Pump, Play Rough, or Ice Beam, so I mean, you can count it out. You can easily catch from an Azumarill as well. It's a little bit harder to do with the one-turn fast attacks.
Yeah. Now I also see. How about we talk about Alolan Sandslash?
Let's do it. We've been seeing quite a few of them.
We have a spotlight card as well. I also saw a question from Jox about Lorenz. We'll get to that soon. But let's take a look at Alolan Sandslash here, because now instead of Bulldoze, we have Drill Run, which basically is the same power but 15 energy less.
It's incredible. I mean, I think this is one of the things about Sandslash. I mean, it is so frail, right? You see it in the league. I mean, we saw Medicham basically just being able to just counter, just punch it down, nowhere to go after that. But because it has now this heavier hitting Drill Run, and from the Shadow especially, it's a Pokemon that I think is really going to be playing well. We saw it earlier with a Mind Joke. Like we said, I mean, being able to get to 4th or even 3rd place before this update when it was running Bulldoze just showcases the powerhouse that this Sandslash can be.
I think Denki-chan's also cheering from home, right?
Yes.
Also a player who played a lot of Alolan Sandslash, not just at the Malmo Regional, but also in the Go Battle League, where he got really far. And yeah, I think Joran, it's such a good move. It's even more efficient than Ice Punch, even though Ice Punch has that same type attack bonus, right? The typing that matches the Pokemon's typing itself, right? Usually adds a little bit more damage to it.
Now, I want to ask you as well. So the fast attack overall, I think preferred is going to be Shadow Claw. But what do you think about Powder Snow?
Power Snow is what you use when you really, really dislike Noctowl. It just makes it a little bit better, because even the Noctowl matchup is sometimes a little bit iffy. You can use 2 Ice Punch to take out, but you can't really get a farm down because the Shadow Claw is double resistant, right? That goes on the normal typing. But to Jock's question, one of our competitors, not here today, he did play a couple other, like the European International Championship 2023. One of our players from Portugal asked about Lurantis. Now, Lurantis has Leafage as its fast attack, which is a grass type fast attack. We didn't have that yet on.
No, we didn't. I wonder what you think about that as well, because I kind of liked it with what it had before with the Fury Cut. Being able to get to those charge attacks very quickly is something that was helpful for Pokemon. Again, not the bulkiest in Great League, so being able to get these moves off fairly quickly is something something that I think was to his advantage. But maybe you can talk me into Leafage.
Yeah, Leafage, I think, just gives a little bit more farm down potential, right? Because Fury Cutter, it's great that you have you charge quickly, but you don't really rely on fast attack pressure. It's just the fast and furious. You charge quickly and you throw a strong Leaf Blade and superpower, but you have very little farm down, right? Especially against like steel types.
It's like a Spark Lantern.
It's exactly. And with Leafage, you actually probably likely become a little bit better against like Galarian Stunfisk. It's basically the same as Bullet Punch, right? It's a pretty decent fast move. And I think it just makes you a little bit better against like water types, because even stuff like Pokemon like Azumarill are a little bit so-so with Fury Cutter at times. And I think especially those two matchups, like water types and Galarian Stunfisk, just become a little bit better. I don't think it'll be top meta right away.
Yep.
But I do know.
I like how you said right away.
Right away. I do know that one of the players here, Fabio, he defeated Scafo actually in one of the winners rounds. He is running Lurantis.
Wow, we were talking about Scafo earlier. You called him the quote-unquote villain of this tournament, being already qualified for Worlds and still competing. But looks like the Fabio, who is a trainer from Belgium, was able to surpass him.
Yeah, a pretty big upset, to be honest, because Scafo is known to be a good battler, already qualified for Worlds, but it looks like Fabio this time wants to try to go for Worlds.
Yeah,
so
but could be.
Let's see if he gives it his all. Now, another suggestion from chat, Golisopod. I think it's so underrated.
Don't get him started on Golisopod.
Please get me started on Golisopod. I like Araquanid. I like Golisopod even more. I think I can beat MeWeedle with that.
Yeah.
I would
Pay attention to MeWeedle. He's calling you out here and now.
I would love to, right? It has Aerial Ace, such a great move. It's actually not a great, not a great flying type attack, but you know it hits super effective on a couple of things. But you do now have Shadow Claw and Liquidation, right? A Crunch clone, I believe 45 energy for 70 power and a 30% chance to drop that defense. And I just love dropping opponents' defense because it just makes things easier.
That's true. You love baiting, you love dropping opponents' defense. Is there anything you don't love about this game?
Bastiodon and Charizard.
Yeah.
Not my favorite. No. I remember Hot Pocket laughing at me.
Those were pretty fun matches overall. For those of you who don't quite know what we were talking about, maybe we can actually talk about it while we have a little bit of downtime. Inadequence competed in Hartford, which is in North America, and he made it quite far. But let's go over your team composition. What did you decide to bring to that tournament?
I wish I could tell you super exciting stuff about that, but I used the same stuff, the same Pokemon at the European International Championship, basically, because I felt very confident with that. I felt like my team had
Well, you made top 16 with that already, didn't you?
It's true, at the European International Championship, yeah. Basically, what I felt like with my team is that there were just very few core breakers, plus I always have core breaks to others. One thing that I feared was Nidoqueen, though. It basically beat all my Pokemon. I had the Charizard, the Obstagoon, well, they lose already. Then I had the Spark Lantern, not Water Gun, so it loses to Nidoqueen because the Sparks are double resisted. I had Registeel, which only can throw resisted charge attacks. I don't remember I had Trevenant. Yes, I had Trevenant and Alolan Ninetales, a fairy type.
Okay.
So
Trevenant is a little more...
yeah, but the thing is, I don't really have anything that resists.
Yes, that's true. You had no hard answer against a Nidoqueen.
Exactly.
Luckily, you didn't face any, right? But you did.
I did twice, actually.
My goodness.
That was my first loss.
This man beats people running Nidoqueen and Bastiodons with the team with Shadow Charizard.
He even had it on the same team! David Hundreds, I remember. Yes, I will remember that name. He had a Sneasler, a Pokemon that I did not see coming. And he just close combated my Pokemon and they just fainted. And I was knocked out of the winners round 3. And when you drop that early into the lower bracket, that means you usually have to play like 3, 4, 5 more rounds. I had to play 5 more rounds instead of 2 more rounds.
It's basically the rule, like, hey, if you want to win, just don't lose, right? And then you don't have to play as much.
Thank you for your advice.
Yeah, like, come to me for more life hacks. I'll be here all weekend.
Yeah. But yeah, how about we take a look now at the stage, because I think our battlers got on here and we might be ready to go soon. For those who didn't see it earlier, we have Nomaki on the left side. We saw her at the beginning of the stream as well. And we have Andres on the right side. Andres, who has played in a few more regionals.
Yes, that's right. Nomaki, this is her first regional as a competitor. She has been staffing before, which I find very fun and interesting. And Andres almost making top cut on 2 play tournaments to just fall short in the very last moment overall. I mean, we kind of discussed these a little bit earlier. One thing I do like about Dugong as well that we didn't mention was, okay, so we've talked a lot about Alolan Sandslash, but we've also talked about how difficult it is versus Medicham. Dugong also doesn't have a good matchup against Medicham, but it can hit back a little bit better because it's bulkier and it can be able to debuff the Medicham. So even if it ends up losing, the charge attacks that the Medicham will be throwing off into the next Pokemon aren't going to be doing as much damage.
What I like the most is that you can set up the next Pokemon for a farm down on the Medicham, because you can probably get to 2 if the Medicham gets too greedy with the energy, 3 Icy Winds off.
Right.
And I think if you come in with like a Shadow Charizard, you can farm down the Medicham and you throw a Blast Burn into that very annoying Bastiodon. For example.
I'm not even sure where these would ever be coming from.
Just in case Bastiodon would ever swap out of a Dugong matchup. Yes, very good example from myself. But yeah, I think Dugong.
The example of the team that we actually see, that would be a good one, is like the Medicham goes ahead and farms down the Dugong, but it gets off 3 Icy Winds, and then in comes that Sableye. Not only are the counters and the charge attacks resisted, now he can just Shadow Claw, get as much energy on that Sableye, and be able to hit whatever comes in at full force.
Absolutely, and that's what I like about it a lot. That's also what I used to like a lot about Araquanid when I used it. You can farm down something like an Umbreon or a low health Pokemon. You can then debuff the next Pokemon coming in with with the Bubble Beams, or even throw that unexpected Bug Buzz.
Well, you would never do that because you love baiting.
Until I don't. Sometimes I get him like that.
We called Scaffold the villain, but did you just hear that villainous laugh from Martine?
I do not have an evil laugh like that. No. Yeah, so if we just go through these teams one more time for those who haven't called it earlier, we're very excited to see the Dugong, and Umbreon I think is the prime answer to the Sableyes that we will see a lot in this tournament. We see 2 here on the teams. We saw the plushie as well on the table. They're all over the place, and I think Umbreon just answers that quite well, while having good neutral play against Lantern and Noctowl, even being able to win the 0 shields against Medicham that does not pack a fighting charge move.
Yeah, I think overall, if you look at it, these teams are pretty much almost mirrored teams, except for one Pokemon being different overall, and that is those picks that we've been sort of calling out of the Dugong and the Umbreon. Otherwise, we have to see for sure which type of Lantern Andres is running. We did get to see Maki's earlier, which was on Spark, I believe. But if it is a Water Gun Lantern, then Maki sort of has the advantage of the Lanterns overall. This is what kind of like you were saying, and I was addressing it with the Super Alki when he won. Maybe he was getting a little bit ahead of the meta, knowing that so many people most likely would be running Water Gun Lanterns because of all of these ice types around, and saying, you know what, I know that my or my Spark Lantern goes ahead and beats that.
Yeah, well, here we go, Amanda. I already saw Andres smiling at the crowd, being ready for this battle. We see that Noctowl into the Umbreon.
This is a pretty neutral matchup overall, slightly in favor to that Noctowl, but we're basically seeing a very bulky bird and a very bulky cat about to face off.
Yeah, this is a matchup, or sorry, the line that Nomaki is running is a pretty classic one, right? You bait out the Trevenant, you farm down the Noctowl. You farm down with the Noctowl. However, there's no Trevenant this time. So, interesting line from Sabaku no Maki. And also, not knowing yet what fast attack Andres is running, it might also be very weak to her Lantern. And I think Andres is just pretty happy with his Noctowl here because her Sableye is safe from it now.
Yeah, and I think if you're Maki, you're actually probably pretty happy about this as well, because you're saying, okay, if it's already not a Lantern, I'm in a pretty good spot overall. I can tank a lot of these foul plays, and I'm going to be able to fire off my charge attacks first as well, charging up a little bit of extra energy, doing a nice job counting here, and going ahead and throwing this Sky Attack. The Umbreon's still in the green, but it's about to be dropped down to the yellow.
Yeah, would you throw a Last Resort as your last charge attack here, or would you throw a foul play?
I think I'd probably go for a foul play. It looks like Andre decides to do that as well, going for that now. I mean, and looking like we're getting a shield from Maki here, going ahead and probably charging up a little bit more energy before throwing this now, since the foul play just got released, throwing this Sky Attack. And this, at this range, plus the wing attacks, might be enough to bring down that Umbreon.
This is very bold from Anders, in my opinion, because you probably have to come in with the Medicham here, but what if there was a Sableye on Nomaki's team? We don't see it right now, but I think in that regard, switch advantage could be very important. She comes in with the Sableye instead. Interesting. Probably doesn't want to tank the super effective attack on the Medicham. You don't have to shield here per se. She might, though, to preserve some HP. Let's see. Does not. Just tanks this Sky Attack on the Sableye.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very good counting by Nomaki as well. She went up to that Shadow Ball before throwing the Sky Attack, and now throwing another Sky Attack, getting a little bit of damage on every single Pokemon with this Noctowl. Andrea had not seen anything else on Maki's lineup yet.
Yeah, and Nomaki now knows the exact lineup, and obviously she brings in her own Medicham now, also preserving a little bit of HP on the Noctowl, so it might not be able to be farmed down by that Sableye. So I think a very smart play from Nomaki. Now, Andres does already have a foul play stored on that Sableye, so she still is in a decent spot here. First Psychic comes through and is not shielded.
Yeah, and also she's a little bit ahead on energy overall, because swapping in that Medicham when that Noctowl went through, I mean, Maki's behind on energy overall, but now just at this Psychic. Will she get the debuff? No, she does not. And meanwhile, Andrea almost up to another Psychic, going up a little bit ahead. She knows her counts well as well, throwing the Psychic, which at this range, enough to take out the opposing Medicham.
Unfortunately losing one counter there, but does decide to shield the Medicham, and I think this is great for Andres because he might be able to get some good for. Oh my god, no, that's a catch! It's a catch. I think Andres wants to swap out and throw the foul play immediately to snipe this Medicham, but unfortunately catch an Ice Punch.
Well, I mean, a Ice Punch not quite enough to take out the Sableye at this range. Going ahead and getting a little bit of extra farm. Oh, too risky to farm down those counters. Are not super effective at all, but meanwhile, Sableye not taking any risks, going ahead and doing this foul play to an unprotected Medicham, and down it goes. But now we have a full health Lantern in the back.
I actually would have loved to see. Oh, never mind. I thought if you come with the Noctowl, you can't even claw it down with the Sableye. It looks like this is very tough for Andres to overcome. I believe she still has a shield, but unfortunately, it's not going to do anything here for you because your Medicham is so low that it will just get sparked down here.
Yeah, it's not often you see a spark down, but Maki not even risking it, going ahead and saying, okay, I'll throw in this Surf. Andrea also realizing that at this point there's not much she could do in conceding, going ahead and letting that Medicham fall.
Yeah, very strong play from Nomaki there. A little bit, a very soft team to that Noctowl from Andres, right? She basically only had the Umbreon that could put up a good fight there. But when Nomaki decided to shield that, the Noctowl still had some work to do, right? It threw a charge attack in both the Medicham and the Sableye.
Yeah, this is pretty intense overall, and this is sort of what we were saying. If you have almost a mirror team, you have to look at the small differences between them, right? But also the problem is, if you're running a team that's so similar to your opponent, do you run it like you would normally run it? Do you run it how you think that they would run it? It's a big mind game in itself, choosing the three that they would put out. Like you said before, the lineup that Maki ran was a very typical line. You know, we see a lot of that Lantern, Medicham, Noctowl. You see that a lot right now in Go Battle League if you're playing.
Yeah.
It still seems to be the most popular team of choice. Overall, Andrea, not that she played bad at all. It was just one of those things where just, you have to decide. I think Umbreon is still definitely a good pick against this team.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if maybe she can find better placement for her Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah, Andres just possibly needs some luck in alignment. I see a lot of Mantis in the chat to support Andres. Yeah, so one thing that I found myself in the practice tournament that I played is that if there's no Medicham on your screen right now, it might just be in the back. So you kind of want your Sableye on that. And I think that's what we saw here as well, right? And Nomaki, I think, just realized switch defense might be important because with that Umbreon, right, Umbreon kind of weak to Medicham, there might be a Sableye in the back to cover that Umbreon. And in that case, Nomaki just realized, I need switch advantage. I cannot afford to have my Medicham on Andres' Sableye. And she went for switch advantage. And I think that was one of the most crucial things in this battle.
I was talking with Maki a little bit earlier, and I had asked her, you know, this is your first tournament, but we've seen so many first-time play competitors being able to qualify for Worlds even. Do you think that this potentially could be you? And she said, no, I don't think so. But, I mean, look at how well she's been playing overall. This is her first time as she's competed, but I think she's, like, gleaned a lot of information, being able to staff and judge other events. You probably take away more than you actually realize.
And she's also one of the local players, right? She's from Italy. So, you know, I think that also has something cool to it because we haven't seen a lot of Italian ballers outside of Turin. But here we go. We have the Sableye into the Medicham. This might be Andres' lucky day.
That's a very good turnaround here for Andres. So we'll have to see what Maki chooses to do. Chooses to stay in. This is an interesting play. Both of the Pokemon in the back seem to be doing okay against that Sableye. Trying to catch with this Noctowl, not going ahead and getting this. And Andres saying, all right, fine, you swap this in. I'm going to go ahead and go for this return.
An interesting play because she does have that Registeel in the back, but perhaps predicting actually is going into the Registeel. Maybe she was predicting something weak to something else weak to Registeel that Nomaki tried to bait out, but then does decide to go into that Registeel to tank all the moves from that Noctowl. Now, I don't know how I feel about this because this does allow the Medicham from Sabaku Nomaki to farm down this Registeel later.
One of the problems, I think that, not even problem, I think Andrea noticed it right away, is she's playing ABB weak to Medicham. So seeing the Medicham in the lead was really great for Andrea. She has to make sure to take this advantage. She overcharged a little bit too much if you saw there. She was hoping to get a little bit more farm, but Maki going ahead and throwing this Ice Punch at the Registeel.
I actually like this play a lot, because what if your attack gets dropped and you are not even able to farm it down anymore? I think this might set it up perfectly to farm down the Registeel before it could possibly get to another Zapcannon now, and decides to shield the Medicham, perhaps realizing that it could be important later. Zapcannon coming through. I believe that, yeah, that did not, the attack drop did not go through there, and Registeel does get farmed down. Now you have almost 2 Ice Punches.
2 Ice Punches, but coming into a Sableye. Sableye is about to take one of them. Andrea still has 2 shields left, choosing to let this one go as well. I think she's trying to not show that she's scared of this Medicham in the back, but that Umbreon definitely doesn't want to see it. The second Ice Punch going through now. Will Andrea use the first shield? Looks like she's got it.
Smart, yeah. Otherwise, the Medicham might just counter you down, and you don't want that. Let's see if Nomaki's staying in. She's going to do the Lantern and throwing a foul play before switching out. Now, what this does set up for Nomaki, perhaps in the later stage of the game, is that she might be able to swap out, because now you are misaligning the timers. And Andrew's staying even longer. Oh, and I had to catch the surf. Sorry, I couldn't.
We were both so flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness! But a wonderful catch. Andreas, if you watch any of the streams, she's really good at this. She knows her counts almost precisely. No, the surf was about to be thrown because it would be enough to take out that Sableye. Catching on the Umbreon here and just absorbing all of that damage.
Yeah.
But now we're up to that heavy-hitting Thunderbolt. But again, the Umbreon is one of the more tanky Pokemon. Even a Thunderbolt won't be enough to take it out of this range. Just even barely getting it into the yellow. Yeah. Meanwhile, just charging up a lot of energy, almost back-to-back foul plays here.
I think you have to use your shield at some point, though, because both your Pokemon are getting really low here. In fact, Nomaki might just let everything go and try to farm down with the Medicham that still has quite some health. This is not even that good anymore for Anders, I think, at this point. And I think one of the decisive moments in the game may have been throwing the foul play, the return into that knockdown instead of a foul play that may have been enough. Let's see what Nomaki is going to do here. Bringing in that Medicham. I don't think a foul play will take out here.
I don't think a foul play will take it out, but I do think it'll take a couple of counters. Meanwhile, we do see that shield from Maki. It's like you're saying, she's putting it all on the Medicham, but the timers are up now. In comes that Sableye.
Oh, and the charge attack priority. Oh, that's so close, Amanda. Just barely on it. Nomaki has no shield to protect herself from this, but can the Lantern now farm down this Sableye? Let's see how much health it has left. It doesn't have that much health. I think the Shadow Claws do a little bit more.
Yeah, Shadow Claw's doing a little bit more. That Spark, she is at it, but she knows her win condition, and a tie. But unfortunately for Andreas, got that Umbreon still in the back.
Still has a Pokemon. Yeah, so that's a 1-1 score we have right now. A great battle between Nomaki and Andrews we just saw here. Andrews taking off the headset just real quick because that was such a sweaty battle.
Indeed, got to shake it off there overall. I found that a lot of the plays, I don't want to say bad by any means, like I found them unconventional, right? So like you're saying, like throwing that return is not something that I think a lot of players would typically do right away. I think if they saw that matchup, there would be an immediate swap to the Registeel, or perhaps maybe throwing that foul play for a little bit of chip and dip.
So you get it into Zapcannon range, right? Because a foul play would have done it already, I think. A Zapcannon does about 80% or so on a knockdown. Usually with the lock-ons, that should be enough to farm it down before it gets to 3 Shadow Balls, unless you have an exceptional knockdown or an exceptional Registeel in that case. But yeah, this time I think Andres maybe was just overthinking what to do there. Fortunately for Andres, that did work out for her, but Nomaki tried everything to pull that match through her, and it came down to such a very close charge attack priority there. Although it did come into a farm down range at the very end. But yeah, it just got so close, despite being pretty hard counted there.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the cool things about this game is like just because you potentially lose a lead, that doesn't always mean you'll lose a game. It really depends on that middle game, right? The decisive points inside of it. I'm wondering your opinion, since she did throw that return, do you think maybe on the Registeel she should have gone for the Focus Blast rather than the Zap Cannon?
I think what Andres tried to do was to undercharge the Zap Cannon and get a little bit more farm. I think she was just a little bit doubting what to do, and if the knockdown shields, you at least want the attack drop.
Sure.
So I think maybe that was what was going through her mind there. But unfortunately, that undercharge was just still a little bit too much.
Yep.
But yeah,
the Focus Blast would have put it in an almost perfect range because it was at half health, and then you might have been able to get one or two more lock-ons. But again, like you said, there was no attack debuff either way. That was also the thing with the 66% chance. It's not guaranteed, but I swear, every time my opponent has it, I feel like it's guaranteed.
It's 90% when you play against one. It's 10% chance when you use one. That is my experience. Yes.
Crunch debuffs, on the other hand, I am the queen of crunch debuffs.
Oh, really?
When I played the Shadow Drapion, I swear, like I think it was 90% in my favor. The RNG guys were smiling down on me there.
I'll have to keep that in mind when I play against you. But yeah, to your point, I think Focus Blast indeed is usually preferred attack to use when you are not expecting a shield or when you're expecting a knockout, because it's only 1 turn or 5 energy less, but you need to get every single advantage in a battle that you can get.
It's one of those things about Registeel. Registeel has those heavy-hitting charge attacks, but one of the problems with that as well is usually it's not enough to knock out a Pokemon. So you always have to get to 2, and with lock-ons doing like barely any damage, sometimes it is not enough. You're going to get countered down, not even by necessarily Medicham with counter, but any sort of move. If you're not able to get to your attack in time, then down goes the Registeel.
Absolutely. Now I'm also wondering what these players are like writing down as their notes, right? That's always what I'm curious about. Maybe they're writing something down. Save switches Noctowl. Did not shield Zap Cannon, right? Or they're like writing down a simulation or something, or like a matrix of this Pokemon's good against that.
Maybe they're just playing tic-tac-toe against themselves.
But here we go. We have our next matchup. Lead us in, Amanda.
Oh my goodness, another one we're about to see. Remember, we're
Water Gun or Spark? Here we go.
Spark. Oh, it's a water gun.
It's a water gun. You were wrong.
I was wrong, but if you look in the back, we have to see a Dugong
shiny
and a Noctowl.
Shiny.
Not only that, but I mean, I think overall, since it's a water gun, this is a lot better for Maki here. If this was actually a Spark Lantern, I mean, bringing Noctowl and Dugong is pretty dangerous.
Oh, tries to catch on the Medicham unsuccessfully, and now is answered by the Sableye. This is so tough for Sabaku no Maki because Andres this matchup is so good for Andres. I think at this point, the most optimal play is to get this to like 50% HP and then throw a return, because that does a little bit more damage than that foul play here. Let's see how Andres will play.
We did see her throw a return last time. We'll have to see for sure. Maybe she wants to get a little bit more of that energy.
Ooh.
Throwing right at charge attack priority again. Like I said, Andres with a very good counting and also a lot of control. Not throwing any move from that lantern and coming in. Not quite enough to take it out. Gonna go ahead and have to take this Ice Punch.
I love this. You know why? Because this gives the Noctowl so little farm down. I don't think this Ice Punch will allow the Medicham to counter down the Sableye. It does get very low. Let's see. And look at that, I love this so much. I was waiting for it. If Andres will give Nomaki even less farm, she is really trying to control this match as much as possible. But little does Andres know that her Lantern is so dominant here.
Yes, Lantern is dominant. And again, when we talked about a little bit of chip damage is chip damage here. This foul play is not going to be enough to take that Noctowl out, but it is going to be putting it rather low. And now we're coming back in with that Lantern, throwing the Surf.
Yeah. Now, you know, one other thing that I do think of, if she didn't if she didn't allow those counts to come through, maybe she would have reached a return here on the Noctowl. It looks like, oh, trying to catch a move. Oh my goodness, what's going on? They both swapped there, and man, this actually is not that bad for the Dugong. But Andres has a slight advantage, so she can pull off one foul play before getting the attack drop.
Yeah, and you can see Maki is kind of struggling there. She's wasn't quite sure what to do. Now, Drill Run obviously would be doing more damage, but we want this Umbreon to be doing less damage itself. So going ahead and throwing that Icy Wind as soon as she gets it, which is a very smart move here. Now this Umbreon is the foul plays are going to be doing even less as they go through.
Yeah, this is gonna take a while, this matchup. Finally, the first shield from Nomaki coming out. I believe there's also a Sky Tech stored still on that Noctowl. I think there's still quite some play for both players, but I don't think that the Noctowl can get to a Shadow Ball anymore. That might be needed. Not for the Umbreon, but for the Lantern.
Meanwhile, the second Icy Wind going through, once again debuffing this Umbreon. This Umbreon is still so tanky, though. You see another attack fall, of course, because it's a 100% guarantee that this is happening. But you have to look, because Andrea's switch timer is almost up as well, so maybe she will switch it back up to the Lantern to clear this debuff after this foul play goes through.
Yeah, let's see. It's very handy of Andres to keep the Lantern to clear the debuff. And oh, throwing that Ice Wind immediately. Oh, I think you may have lived this as Andres, but let's take a look how this is going to play out.
I mean, it's pretty risky, because if you don't, then you're only down to one Pokemon, and with all these debuffs.
Oh, catches the move! Oh. I think Nomaki could not even have thrown that Sky Attack, so a really massive catch. And now Drill Run, it might be used soon, the new move!
This is incredible here, as we talked about earlier, since it's a water gun here, it's not going to be doing as much damage. Going for that Drill Run, getting protected. This was a huge call from Andres here.
No bait, actually no Icy Wind bait, so this won't drop the attack from the Lantern. And now being able to get to just Surf here, because the Dugong is already so low, the shiny Dugong. I think the Surf will still take it out, but there's still a shield from Nomaki, and we still have that Umbreon as well.
That's right. It looks like the writing is a bit on the wall overall here. It's still water gunning away, but at this point, it's going to be able to get to a Drill Run, but the Umbreon, we have to remember, is still left in the back with a little bit of health.
Yeah, let's take a look at Duron coming through, taking out that lantern, and in comes the Umbreon. Let's take a look here. And in comes the foul play, and this will decide the match. Andres wins 2-1 here against Nomaki. Very, very good game from both players. I think Nomaki made it really close there, despite being leading so weak into that lantern.
Right, I mean, I think she breathed a little bit of a sigh of relief, right, when she saw that it was a water gun lantern. But overall, I mean, yes, very impressive plays. And if you are like me and now a big Maki fan, don't fret, she's not out of the tournament yet. This was the winners bracket, so she will be dropped down to the losers. Since it is a double elimination tournament, still has more chances to play. And for those of you who want to follow along, I'll just put another reminder out there. You can type in ! bracket into the chat, and you can see all the players, the different pods that they've been in, and how they've been performing so far. You see a lot of the players here in the crowd already watching the matches.
Yeah, and as you say, like this, I believe this was the winners round 4, the winners semi-finals of this group. So I believe then you'd still drop to like lower bracket round 6 or something. So Nomaki is still in a decent spot to make to day 2. It's definitely not over, but Andrews now moves to the winners final of the group. This might be her tournament.
And we have to remember, she's made it to the winners final in 2 other regional tournaments before as well. This is the hurdle that she has to overcome. We're talking about hero stories. This is the last tournament. Will she be able to do it?
This is like a fairy tale story, right? Because her boyfriend Jean Joa qualified in Utrecht,
That's
also
right.
a special event. And now she might do it here, a special event in Turin, right?
That special event power couple going on.
And then both going to Japan. And possibly knocking each other out.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
That's the thing. I mean, you've been watching, you've been casting, and you've been playing in like almost all of the tournaments. Is there anyone that you're very fearful of facing when you're competing in Worlds?
Well, there's Crescent Angels, a Japanese player who I'm pretty afraid of. There's definitely a lot of names. Scafo is one I usually don't have a great record against. So also a tough player. I think it's Axon, a qualified player from the United States. The first player to qualify, to make to day 2 in 4 tournaments that he played, just like me. Actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the second one is sitting right here.
And with Dash, also such a good player. Took him a few tournaments to actually qualify, but he is no doubt one of the best ones. We have so many big names.
It's a completely stacked pool, and now with this new tournament format, you know, with the new meta update, I'm really excited to see what everyone will be bringing there as well. But you made a good point where you said, "Oh, I normally lose to Scafo." Jopi had played Frank the Tank earlier, and he said, "Yeah, we're teammates, we're friends, we've scrimmaged against each other all the time." So it's one of those things, you kind of know someone's play style, and I think maybe Scafo just has your number. You know, he knows how you like to play. He knows that you love debate.
You would think that. But sometimes it really goes right against your favor, especially when you. So one battle I had against Magic Mason in Hartford was that we've been working together quite a while. He's been watching some of my content. He knows I love baiting,
right?
And I'm like, you know that I love to bait, so you might now think I'm not going to bait, and then I did it anyway. But he called it. So that didn't work out.
So you really tried to like mastermind him there. You were like 7 steps ahead, and he was like, "Oh, I was only on the 3rd step."
But it does go like that. Sometimes, even if you lose everything in your practice, the next battle you might just win.
Yeah.
Like Pokemon Go is a lot of skill, a lot of mind game comes into it. Sometimes luck in the alignment. But if you know what your opponent is doing, if you know what you are doing, that might just be enough, even if you lose 5 times in a row.
Yeah. And I think another important point that you brought up is actually practice, because you do have to practice with these Pokemon. These are Pokemon that just got the move update just a couple nights ago.
Well, we do have one player, Jonkus, who didn't practice at all and used really spicy Pokemon in Utah, right? Imagine if he practiced.
Imagine.
We would have had him in Worlds, possibly.
That's actually true.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's planning on going to Japan. I wonder if there's a last chance qualifier there as well. There was previously one in Worlds the year before in London. I'm not sure what the formats are going to be overall. I would assume something similar would happen to Yokohama, but you can never tell for sure. As of now, though, officially, this is the last event for Europe. So, I mean, a lot is on the line for a lot of these competitors. I know some of them maybe talked about going to NAIC and taking some of those competitor chairs there as well. I mean, NAIC already is up over 200 players as well registered.
So one thing that I found interesting about NAIC is that a lot of
players that already are qualified for Worlds will be participating there. In Hartford, we saw that one of the Worlds invites actually cascaded down to, I believe, the tied 5th place.
Yes.
And I think at the NAIC, I would not be surprised if like the player who plays at 8 might actually qualify. But that's enough about NAIC. How about we go to Abi for an interview with our previous winner, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this.
Welcome back, everybody. That was an amazing semi-final match between Andrea and Maki. Absolutely great game number 1. Andrea, how do you feel about winning this game?
Well, quite excited. At the beginning of the tournament, I was like quite scared. You know that we Todo was screaming all the night, trying to find like a big good team. But in this new meta is quite difficult, so yes.
Yeah, but you've done a great job trying to figure out the meta, and then you're now in the winners final.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I'm excited.
Yeah. and you've been going to a lot of these tournaments, right? And now you're one step away from going to day number 2, and you must feel like, yes, I've done it.
I'm done it. I can. That's. I think today is the day.
And before we started this interview, you told me to ask you, what's your secret weapon? What is it?
Well, I think maybe trying to find a good team is quite difficult because every time you are like very weak against one mon. So at the end, I decided to choose Umbreon as my buddy because I think is the best Pokemon right now in this meta. So I'm quite scared of fighting Pokemons like Terma A9, but you know, it's like a leap of faith.
Sorry?
A leap of faith.
Yeah, exactly. And I think most of our games come down to a leap of faith because you never know what your opponent is going to pick.
Yeah.
And you did a great job predicting your opponent's leads in game number 2.
Exactly.
You had like a very unfortunate instance in game number 1 where you swapped the Sableye, but you could not throw the foul play.
Yeah.
What was going in your mind when it happened in game number 3 when you threw a move and Noctowl came in?
I cannot say exactly the words, but it's like, oh no, I cannot throw this move. So it's like thinking what I'm going to do, but in this game I think was over.
So are you enjoying your time here so far? You've been winning all the rounds. How are the rounds? Like, are you going 2-1 or 2-0?
Better than enjoying this tournament, I think the best thing of these events is like enjoy with your friends, meet players that you play every week in factions or these things. That's the best thing, I think.
But I'm really glad that you have another demeanor about you. Like now you're like so much more happier because I know yesterday you were very, very nervous.
Yeah.
Because you were practicing with Martin as well.
Yeah.
And we played some games and you were like, no, I don't want to play tomorrow. But now you're like glowing.
You know what? I was doing like 0-5, 0-5, 0-3. So it's like, I'm not prepared. I don't have a good team, so.
Also, guys back there, the last 0-5 was with me.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, we had another team, but at the end, in the last minute, we decided this team. Yeah. I think this is the best.
And you were the one who made that choice because I gave you another team that I thought was a better idea and you went for this one. So kudos to that, and you're executing it perfectly. When I saw you run game number 2 with the Sableye double Umbreon
double tank.
Tank, I was like, okay, I know what you I know what you are going to do, and I know exactly how you're going to execute it. Very, very well played there.
Thank you.
So we are going to now go back to the casters so that they can bring you another live coverage. Thank you.
Thank you, Abi, and thank you, Andrea. Yeah, I mean, like, Abi just had to give a little bit of kudos to himself there as well. Like, oh yeah, I beat her before because he knows if she goes very far, then he gets a little bit of credit.
Well, did he also get as far as her?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Let's
give credit where credit is due overall.
Exactly, yeah. Andres practices a lot, gets a little bit nervous. She had a couple tough battles against me, and then she was like, yeah, it's going to be so tough tomorrow. And now she's in winner's final. She's doing great.
She's just got all of the losses out of her system. But again, that was the point that we were making before. Being able to practice and seeing how Pokemon actually play out. Because sometimes, yeah, you can run simulations, you can do different things, but it's different when you're playing it in real life because, I mean, it's just like, oh, my opponent played it differently than I would have expected. Now what do I do?
Exactly, and how do you adapt? I think way more mind games, way more pressure also comes into that. And one thing that we just looked at the brackets real quick. One thing that I want to point out before we talk about this, that Super Alki we got earlier on won 2-0 against Tonton Bateus, the EYC winner. Amanda, what do we see here?
Well, speaking of Tonton Bateus, he is a French player, and both of these players are also French battlers. So we have Arsenio on the left-hand side against Wolfpack, who is on the right. Both of these two have been Day 2 competitors in different events. Arsenio has been made more often, but I think he's also been to more tournaments than Wolfpack has as well.
Yeah, Wolfpack actually, I believe top 4 in Liu. I also was there, and I remember that he beat Tho Tactical, my rival, friend, of course. Yes, not rival, my friend.
He could be a rival as well, I suppose. But look at this team of Wolfpack going on to 3 Shadows, and 2 of them with the new updates.
Yeah, I like this. This is a very purplish, has like a purple vibe to it, right? Like so many Shadow Pokemon. I love that, and we see 2 that have been upgraded, right, with the recent buff, Alolan Sandslash and the Quagsire. Quagsire, I think, is very underrated. With only 1 Mutual advantage, it can flip the 2-shield scenario against a Medicham, and I think that's huge. Unfortunately for Wolfpack, there is a big Shadow Venusaur on the Arsenio's side.
Maybe the Shadow Venusaur, though, has to be a little bit fearful of that Alolan Sandslash as well, though, because it definitely does not want to be tanking those Ice Punches and those Frenzy Plants and Sludge Bombs. Not going to be able to do much to that Pokemon overall, but other than that, and I guess other than the knockdown, because let's have to face it, the wing attacks are going to be doing a lot of damage, but Frenzy Plant from a Shadow Venusaur hits like a truck.
Yeah, I love trucks, and you know what I think really stands out here? Lickitung. On both sides, I think it's good on both sides, because on the left side we have Lickitung from Arsenio. It only really is checked by the Noctowl. Even Medicham is a decent matchup, and actually Shadow Sableye can flip the 0 shields.
Interesting, I did not know that.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that is cool.
The more you know. And Shadow Alolan Sandslash, even though it resists all the charge attacks that Lickitung has, still doesn't do that great, because you have that Shadow Claw. Maybe it's Power Snow, right?
Yeah, that's cool. True. We can't. We don't know until we know.
Yeah, but Lickitung is actually pretty good against Alolan Sandslash in some scenarios there. It actually needs to throw a Power Whip. A Mind Joke told me that actually to win the 0 shoot. But let's take a look here at game number 1 here, Amanda.
We'll have to see. I was watching at the beginning too and see what poses people choose in the costumes. But it looks like we have that Lickitung into that Quag. We're about to see the Quagsire in action with this Mud Bomb here. And also we can see the movesets below. But it's pretty typical. Mud Bomb and Stone Edge and Body Slam and Power Whip on the Lickitung side. Going ahead, charging up, and now throwing this Mud Bomb bait, because it looks like Wolfpack, unlike other people, no, it is like other people. He likes debate.
That actually did way more damage than I thought it would. And let's see how Arsenio is going to do this. Yes, I think he did build up to a potential Stone Edge there, but I think Arsenio's Lickitung doesn't really fear it right away. But looks like Wolfpack does fear a potential Power Whip, and happens to shield a Body Slam.
Yeah, going ahead and now doing another Mud Bomb, but we just saw how much damage that first one did. Arsenio respecting as well, because definitely up to another Stone Edge. Meanwhile, almost up to another. And
oh, Stone Edge! That's a Stone Edge!
This is huge!
Is Arsenio shielding this? He's thinking. Does this even KO though? Let's take a look. It does double shield this Lickitung.
Wow, there's a ton of energy on this Lickitung now, almost up to like basically 100 energy. Throwing this Body Slam. We have to see if Wolfpack is going to let this Quagsire go down. Going ahead and do that, but it gives Arsenio at least a little bit of alignment and still a lot of energy left on this Lickitung.
I think this is actually great for Wolfpack. I think as Wolfpack you now fear the Medicham in the back, but there is no Medicham from Arsenio. I think Arsenio right now is in a pretty tough spot. Luckily he can get some chip damage with these Body Slams, which he's going to need, because Drill Run hits so hard on both Lantern and Registeel that are in the back.
Yeah, I mean, the Drill Run update for the Alolan Sandslash is going to be huge in this game, because both Pokemon, no shields left on Arsenio's side. Drill Run is going to be super effective. Meanwhile, just going ahead and body slamming away, trying to chip as much as possible. But we see that the Lone Sand Slash already in the yellow.
And going for that Drill Run, this does a little bit more than the Ice Punch. Probably afraid that an Ice Punch would barely not be enough. So I like this play from Wolfpack. This will likely take it out. And now it really comes down, I think, to Water Gun or Spark Lance. Because Water Gun has a little bit more fast attack pressure, right? Which you might need to get rid of this Alolan Sand Slash. It's not the most bulky, but Lock-On is not going to do it.
Yeah, Lock-On is not going to do it, and we do see that it's a Spark. Meanwhile, look, he's already at the Drill Run, charging up a little bit extra and throwing right at Charge Move priority here, going ahead and releasing this Drill Run. We're about to see how much a Shadow Drill Run does to an unprotected Lantern.
And I think Arsenio, very smart, realizes that Wolfpack might try to throw on the Charge Attack priority, but might get, actually thrown right before the Ice Punch. Very smart, very smart. I actually played a couple of players in the Go Battle League who were counting until my Drill Run and then throw the Ice Punch, but Arsenio does not fall for that, and in comes that Shadow Sableye. Let's take a look. Does this get shielded? If so, then Wolfpack is in a tough spot. If he no-shields this, then Registeel is going to have a tough time here, and he does shield this move!
Oh, this might change everything. An immediate swap out now to that Registeel. Like I said, already up to a foul play, going ahead and charging up a little bit more. Wolfpack also, I'm sure, is wonderful at counting, going ahead and throwing this before the Zap Cannon, because again, if he gets that potential Zap Cannon debuff, these foul plays will not be doing as much damage.
Yeah, I don't think that Arsenio, that Wolfpack really wants it, but this Zap Cannon is going to do so much damage. And look at Wolfpack, he knows he is in trouble, and if he does get to a foul play, he might KO this Registeel, but do you KO the, he does get the attack drop, and I don't think that KOs now. Do you throw the foul play or Power Gem? He does go for the foul play here. I don't think this will KO due to that attack drop, right? But
I think the attack drop saved Arsenio there. He noticed it as well, as he just gave a little sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Wolfpack goes down here, but a very, very close game.
Yeah, I actually thought that Arsenio was about to lose this because the Alolan Sand Slash just looked so good there. But the Drill Runs just don't one-shot everything. It's a good move, a good charge attack, but it doesn't one-shot bulky Pokemon like Lantern and Registeel.
No, that's true overall. We see that both the players really thinking things through, because that could have been anyone's game. They had a little bit of luck on both sides there. I think the Zap Cannon debuff was the big thing that saved Arsenio. But like you said, Drill Run not being able to completely KO is also a little bit of a detriment, but it did hit so hard. And again, if that Ice Punch would have gone through before the Surf, then it would have been a whole nother story.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Wolfpack didn't try harder for the switch advantage, because Sableye and the Alolan Sand Slash is a really good core, right? But they also are a little bit, how do I say that? Alignment dependent.
Sure.
Simply because if you have your Alolan Sand Slash on that Meta Gem, you're in trouble, right? But if you have your Sableye on the Meta Gem, you jump with excitement. That's just such a relaxing feeling, right? You just feel safer when you have your Sableye on a Meta Gem.
We do have to remember, though, that the Wolfpack Sableye is a Shadow one, so it is taking 20% more as well. So the Ice Punches, though they're not that effective overall, I mean, a couple of them are definitely going to add up over time on that Shadow Sableye. I believe that you've run Shadow Sableye in the past as well. Do you have a preference overall of a regular one? Or I know that you recently even bragging about it to my face, that you have this really good, purified, shiny Sableye.
I just want to say that again, that Amanda was kind of surprised by the amount of XL candy I had for the Sableye, and I was like, well, that's quite unfortunate for you, because I have 3 now. But yeah,
surprised and insanely jealous.
But yeah, I called my shiny purified Sableye Torino guy. I'm very happy with him. I did run purified lately, just because return has a lot of merit for it. But if you don't face too many Obstagoon, I think the Shadow could be really good too. But if you get it locked into an Umbreon, that's just where it gets difficult. So it really depends on what you kind of face, right? I think if you get Shadow Sableye in any neutral situation, it's just better, because it just hits harder.
I think one of the problems, though, which was the disadvantage for Wolfpack in this matchup, was when he used that shield on the Lantern. Since he was shieldless for the Registeel, the Zap Cannon hit so much harder on the Shadow Sableye. If it was a regular Sableye, that he might have needed Zap Cannon and a Focus Blast to be able to take it out.
But then you also need 3 foul plays likely, because you just hit a little less harder with that Sableye foul play. I think it may have really come down to taking it out depending on that attack drop, right? You kind of not needed that, but then this still was the Lantern. So I think in that case it was just very tough. He really needed that Alolan Sand Slash to just clean up the battle.
But still very, very close matchups here. I'm really excited to see how these two players are going to play it out. You can tell that they're both extremely nervous. We have to remember, we're still in the winner's bracket here as well. There's a lot on the line.
Yeah. And you know what also is on the line here? The French pride, right?
That's
Who's the
exactly.
best French battler? There are not that many French battlers currently left in as we are progressing in the tournament, but these two are are battling for that winner's finally. And we have the Sableye Mirror. What do you think of this battle here, Amanda?
I mean, I like it as well, but it's one of those things, again, with the shadow damage, it's doing a little bit more, but it cannot tank these foul plays as well, and we're about to see who wins charge attack priority, and
Shadow.
it is Wolfpack's.
Interesting. Usually the Shadow loses the charge attack priority because you can have a lower attack on it. If you purify a Pokemon, it gains 2 attack. It looks like Arsenio does let that first move go. Yeah, he's looking at like, whoa, that did a lot of damage there. I might not get to another move now. So might have to switch out here, but you know what the problem is for Arsenio here? He's playing a very weak line to the Noctowl. In comes that Noctowl on that Lickitung, and this is the reason